things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucs. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. As always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby.
Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to the Recher podcast. Hope everybody is having a wonderful finish to their week. And listen, it's a victory Friday after what we just saw last night at Amalie Arena. So we're feeling good here on the podcast, and I hope you are too. Shout out to David Terry. He's the number one comment on the day. He gets in there first. So a gold star for you and a check mark. I said gold star and then I did a check mark. You get both of them, David Terry. Appreciate the love and the support. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Man, the support has been unreal. My goal was to have 1,000 subscribers before the end of the month. Today, January 31st, and we are over 1,000 subscribers. So a big clap and a stick tap and a nod and a tip of the hat to everybody out there. So thank you for supporting me, and let's just keep this train rolling. 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. Let's just keep moving, keep going, and keep spreading the word. And yesterday, the word was definitely spread pretty easily because we saw what happened with my shoes in the video of John Cooper. My goodness, it got picked up by Bleacher Report, by Missing Curfew, a bunch of different people. Sirius XM was actually talking about it today on the interweb. So it was really, really cool, really great to see and hear. So shout out to everybody, and I love all the support that I've been getting. Hello, Renee Acevedo. Good afternoon, Jay. Good afternoon to you as well. Questions, comments, concerns, leave them there at the bottom of the screen, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter/X. YouTube's probably the best way to get your comments heard. So make sure you like and subscribe. Go over to youtube.com. Actually, my guy Brian Fink came up with a website for me, tiny, TINY.cc/JRecher. JAYRECHER. You can see it right here. My Twitter handle, my handle for everything. tiny.cc/JRecher. All the information on there. You can go to the jrecherpodcast.com. I got everything on there for you. So Victory Friday here in the Tampa Bay area. So great stuff. And as Lady Evil says, great win last night. We'll break that down here in a moment. Let me tell you what we got coming up on the show today. At 12:30 today, we have a Royal Rumble Roundtable. The Royal Rumble tomorrow night, Indianapolis, 6 p.m. starts, a little bit earlier than usual. We got Corey Long from NHL.com. We've got David Schiele from 10 Tampa Bay, and we've got Matt Matera from Pewter Report. We're going to give you our predictions, the winners of the men's and the women's Royal Rumble match. Don't want to miss that. At 12:30. Of course, we're going to talk some Bucs. We're going to talk some Bolts here. Before we get to that, following that, we got the great Paul Kennedy joining us at 1:15 today. And you've seen Paul for many, many years working for whether it was Fox Sports or Bally, but now for the Fanduel Sports Network. And Paul's going to give us some insight on the Tampa Bay Lightning and also the Tampa Bay Lightning Hall of Fame. This weekend, we're going to see the great Rick Peckham and Brian Bradley inducted officially into the Tampa Bay Lightning Hall of Fame. Get down to Thunder Alley about 4:45. That's when they're going to walk down the blue carpet. They're going to get their jackets outside. Instead of what they've been doing the last couple of years, in lieu of that ceremony, they're going to actually do it before the game Saturday night against the Islanders. So 4:45, the blue carpet right outside of Amalie Arena at 4 Thunder Alley. 5:15, looks like they're going to get their jackets. They're going to be part of the ceremonial puck drop before the game, and then they'll get their names revealed by the press box. So really, really great stuff there. So if you are going to be in the area, please go out there and support these guys because it's just too guys that are very, very well deserved for the love and recognition that they are going to get. And then at 2:00 today, Mindy McCord is going to join us. Coach McCord, USF Women's Lacrosse, their first ever game a week from today. Next Friday night at Corbett Stadium, they take on Kennesaw State. It's pretty wild, Kennesaw State, right? It'll always be in our minds and our hearts because of Coach Amir Abdur-Rahim, who you can see right here. But wow, yeah, I mean, just so cool. We've been waiting for this. It's been almost 3 years since it was announced that she was going to be the woman that was going to lead this program. So can't wait. Next Friday night, Corbett Stadium. Be there. I'll be on campus. I'm actually going to be doing play-by-play next Friday for softball. It'll be USF in Michigan, but after that game, I'm going to head over and definitely check out the lacrosse match there. David Terry loved the defensive effort from our boys, and they actually played all 60 minutes. Dolan G agrees. He says, "What up, Jade? Happy Friday. Nice Bolts win." I want to get into that here before we get into some Bucs talk. I see Bucs Basement a comment in a ton, as well as our guy Dolan. We'll get into the Bucs, but I just want to give you my 2 cents real quick on what happened last night with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Big win against a Kings team that is going to make you play honest. And the thing I love about the game last night, and again, it's not shot totals and just reading off the back of the scorecard here. I love that this team was getting, it looked like, shut down again by another goalie that was cosplaying as Patrick Waugh or Martin Brodeur. David Riddick, who's been in the league for a very long time, was standing on his head after that first Hagel goal. And how about that first Hagel goal? He goes outside to inside. That thing was a thing of beauty before he beats Riddick 5-hole. You want to talk about maturation and how much better that this kid has gotten? It's insane. And John Cooper, I asked him about it in the postgame last night. I said, Brandon Hagel, this is a guy that when you acquired him, just talk about his growth. And he said, I don't know if anybody, when Brandon Hagel got acquired by the Tampa Bay Lightning, figured that one day he would be playing for Team Canada. And that's exactly what he's going to be doing. He's probably going to be on that first penalty killing unit with Anthony Cirelli. But you're talking about a team with Connor McDavid and Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon, right? And Braden Point. Like, there's some huge names on that team. But Brandon Hagel and Anthony Cirelli certainly belong there. And they don't win that game last night without those two guys. The second goal that he scored was all grit and determination. Nikita Kucherov gets ahead of the play. Saved by Riddick. There's kind of just some jockeying in front. And here comes Brandon Hagel banging home the rebound. And then Anthony Cirelli finishes it off with an empty netter to make it 3-0. Shutout number 3 on the season for Andrei Vasilevsky, number 37 in his career. A great, solid, all-around game for the Tampa Bay Lightning. That is how you right the ship. That is how you get the train back on the tracks. Playing an honest game. They didn't cheat the game. They didn't give up a bunch of odd man rushes. They played a really solid 60 minutes, probably one of their more complete games of the year. Vazzy wasn't on skates for 4 days because he was sick. We mentioned yesterday Jonas Johansson, lower body injury. I'd be surprised if we saw him before the end of the Four Nations. You got no reason to rush him back. You got Matt Tompkins as the backup. And I think maybe he comes back for one of those last 2 games before everything stops, but we'll see. But at least for the next couple, because there's a day in between, you probably see Vasilevsky for the next 3 games. Also, Zemgus Girgensons didn't practice on Wednesday, wasn't at morning skate on Thursday, but he did play, so that was a sign. And I thought that third line looked good. When you look at Zemgus Girgensons, Nick Paul, and Gage Gonsalves, I mean, that was a solid-looking line. They were working their tails off. And even though they didn't really have anything to show for it when it comes to a goal or an assist on the stat sheet, like, those guys were balling. They hemmed the Kings in deep the entire time. And I do want to look at something that when you play the Los Angeles Kings, one of the biggest things is you're going up against Anze Kopitar, and he is a guy that is a phenomenal faceoff guy and one of the best defensive forwards that we've seen probably in the last 2 to 3 decades. Kopitar last night was a -3, and he was 13 of 23 on faceoffs, which he's going to get his 56.5. But Philip Deneau, who's also a really good faceoff guy, only 38.5%. The Lightning had 3 guys last night over 58%. Braden Point, Nick Paul, and Luke Glendening. And they controlled a lot of the action last night. And that is what you want to see from this Bolts club. Hits, block shots, not taking too many penalty minutes. I mean, the penalty that they got at the end of the game with Eric Chernak, that was just a weird interference call on Tanner Jeannot. And We were talking about this before the game last night. Were we going to see a tribute video for Tanner Jeannot? We did not. What we did see from Tanner Jeannot was him looking at the tablet on the bench and then just kind of putting his stats up on the screen. I don't know if I heard an applause or not. Whatever you can say about a guy like Tanner Jeannot, and obviously we know that the deal didn't work out, right? We're not going to be disillusioned by acting like it was better than we thought. And also, it was a steep price to pay for Julien Brisebois to acquire him from the Nashville Predators. He never got back to that 20 goal, achievement that he did that 1 year with the Preds. But that dude definitely busted his ass for this team. He played hurt. He threw down. Everybody wanted it to work out. It didn't work out. And you could tell that he still got a love. He still has a lot of love from people within the Tampa Bay Lightning organization. You noticed that during morning skate yesterday. I posted a picture, a video, and you saw Chernak go over there and a couple of the coaches go over there. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. And that's one thing that Julien Brisebois told us during his fireside chat on Monday. Every single guy that they acquire, they think if we can bring that guy here, once we get our paws on him, he's going to improve. Case in point, a guy like Brandon Hagel. But it doesn't always work out. Case in point, Tanner Jeannot. And you got to move on. They traded him to the Kings in the offseason. And now you just, you kind of take a step forward and you're all right. You put that in the past. And then you try to look at how you're going to makeshift your roster to make sure that you're in a place where you can get better moving forward. Now, I know another name that has been bandied about when it comes to the Tampa Bay Lightning is Brandon Saad. Now, Brandon Saad is a veteran in this league, a guy that was a cup winner with the Chicago Blackhawks. He is a kind of a quote-unquote power forward, but clearly not the same guy that he was 7 or 8 years ago. And there's going to be a mutual agreement here between he and the St. Louis Blues that they're going to go their separate ways. And out of all of the teams out there, we're seeing from a lot of the media members north of the border that the Lightning are one of the 4 teams that are in on Brandon Saad. Now, I am not one of those guys that every single time a guy becomes available, they should go get this guy. They should go get that guy. You guys know that. Max Crosby was a guy that I don't know if anybody else was saying that, but I said that because that's the guy I identified. But I wouldn't mind a Myles Garrett or Trey Hendrickson. I think makes a lot of sense as well for the Buccaneers. But every single guy that's available, I don't say, oh, that guy, go get him. But we already know that there's a link there with the Bolts and Brandon Saad, and they need middle 6 scoring. This is a guy that's got experience, and if he's in there instead of a Chafee or a Gonsalves, and one of those guys can go down to the 4th line and maybe provide a little bit more of a punch there, I think that would behoove the Lightning to kick the tires on that. Does it mean that stops them from making a move at the trade deadline? Not at all. Because even if they bring Brandon Saad in, they still have to go out and get more firepower. They still got to get another middle 6 guy. They still maybe have to go get another defenseman, but we'll see. I thought Declan Carlisle, who just got sent down to AHL earlier today because Emil Lilleberg's 2-game suspension is up, I thought he was fantastic last night. The combination with him and Perbix, there's a really good balance there. I really liked how the 6 defensemen played last night. Hedman, Radish, McDonough, Chernak, and then Perbix and a guy like Declan Carlisle. So if he does get called up, it's good to know that you have resources down at the AHL level. And it's not just to bring them up on your team, but also to possibly use them in a trade. If you think about it, 8 solid defensemen on this team, because I include Max Crozier in there too, maybe you package them, they go get somebody else. I thought he played better than a lot of people thought. So Lilleberg, who I think maybe gets a little bit too much of a grief. He gets too much grief when it comes to how he plays. And let's not forget, when it comes to defense, sometimes it's about who you're playing with. And at times, Lilleberg and Perbix, I feel like it could be like oil and water. Let's not forget, we all love Eric Chernak, right? We all love the way he plays. We love how Chernak plays with who? A guy like Ryan McDonough. So not everybody's Ryan McDonough. And my piece on Ryan McDonough is actually going to be out on the Lightning website Sunday, so don't miss that. But Ryan McDonough can play with anybody and make them look good. But not every defenseman is like that. Victor Hedman is a guy like that. And it's not always their fault or the other guy's fault. Sometimes the chemistry is not there. We saw that with Hedman and certain guys over the year. I think Hedman and Shattenkirk wasn't the greatest combination. Hedman and Strawman was pretty good. We saw Hedman and Jake Dotchin pretty good. Hedman and Jan Ruda. One combination that really I don't think has worked out that great is Hedman and Chernak. We're thinking maybe this could work. It just doesn't. You look at Chernak, you're like, eh. Then you look at him with McDonough, you're like, what a great combination. So for these people that look at Lilleberg like, oh, he's not that good, but look at how he played with Max Crozier last year. When you saw those two guys, you're like, oh man, that can really work. You don't say the same thing with Lilleberg and Perbix, but then last night you see Perbix and Carlisle, and it looks solid. So don't just, you can look at these stats and people want to, you have to watch the game. Watch the game and see what happens, right? Because Jan Ruda was one of the perfect guys. Before the Lightning were winning the Cups, people were saying, why is Jan Ruda on this team? Why is he playing with Victor Hedman? Why doesn't Chernak play up there? And I said, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit in the press box. I'm going to watch what he does. And you know what I did? I noticed that Jan Ruda just doesn't, he's never out of position, ever. Hetty doesn't stay on the left side. He goes in and out. He's all over the place. Like it's wild. It's like a bull in a china shop, right? You need a certain type of defenseman that's not going to get freaked out about that and is still going to play their game. And Jan Ruda was a perfect complement to Victor Hedman. The numbers be damned. The over analytics, the sabermetrics, whatever the hell you want to call them. Like at the end of the day, I'm trusting my eyes rather than what something on a piece of paper tells me. Stephanie brings up a good point here. You think they move Radish to the third pair and put Moser back with Hedman? I do. I think J.J. Moser is another great example. And usually the Lightning like to do left-handed defenseman, right-handed defenseman. But I think there's something they really like with Hedman and Moser. Moser can play, man. And he has got a great personality. I see him almost after every game, and he always says something. He's always making some kind of comment. And I got a chance, as I was doing my research for the interview, to be able to sit with J.J. Moser in the locker room for like 10 minutes and talking about Manchester United and all these different things. He is such a good dude. What a great personality and character to bring into the locker room. And I think it's only going to continue to grow even more the more that he's with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Sergachev has been fantastic for the Utah Hockey Club. And I saw some idiot comments from like, oh, they clearly won this trade. No, they both won this trade. You cleared the books to be able to sign Jake Gensel. You brought in Moser and Geekie. Geekie earned his right on this team and is going to be a part of the future as a top 6 forward. And J.J. Moser plays with Victor Hedman, one of the top 5 defensemen on the planet. So, like, who lost this trade? Nobody. There's nothing wrong with that. They both won. But that's a great point that you bring up, Stephanie. What happens after? What happens after Moser comes back? And JJ looks good. He's skating pretty much every day. They're just not going to bring him back before the Four Nations. There's just no reason to. But when he comes back, it'll be, check this out. It'll be Hedman and Moser. It'll be McDonough and Chernak. But what happens on that third pair? That's a good question. Because you have Lilleberg, you have Radish, you have Perbix, right? That's 3 guys for 2 spots. I don't think Radish is coming out. I think he's the guy for sure that'll be in there because he's on the power play unit. He's got a great shot, and I think he's getting better. Maybe, man, it's tough. I think Lilleberg might be the odd guy out. Maybe you switch it up, Steph. That's a great point. Because Radish has played pretty well with Hedman, maybe you keep that the way it is, and maybe you go back to left-right, and maybe you go maybe you go Moser to the third pair, and you put him with Perbix. I'd like to see that for an extended amount of time, right? Hedman, Radish, McDonough, Chernak, Moser, and Perbix. And then, unfortunately, Lilleberg, Crozier, Declan, Carlisle. Maybe you move one of those guys to help you bring in a middle 6 forward. It's a good problem to have if you have that many good defensemen. The Stash got Jay up on 2 streams, pumping both Facebook and YouTube algorithms. Let's go. I miss Ruda so much on that pairing with Hetty. JJ going down was definitely a big hit to the ideal pairings, and I think Ratty and Lily work well together. We'll see. We'll see, but we know J.J. Moser is definitely going to be back in the lineup when he is healthy. They have high hopes for that young man, and I do too. All right, let's talk some Buccaneer football here before we have our Royal Rumble roundtable at 12:30. Bucs Basement, I appreciate you chiming in so early. Pretty obvious at this point, the Bucs are going to hire someone internally for OC because keeping every coach is obvious for continuity as well as giving Cohen the middle finger. I don't agree with that. I don't necessarily agree with that. Because I think if you go out and you get a Shieldhouse or you get a Caley from the Rams, who I want Caley, that's the guy that I would want. I mean, if it's Grizzard and you promote internally, I have no problem with it. But I don't think by keeping Pacucci and keeping Carberry and not letting them interview with the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is well within right of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're not going for a promotion here. And just because you go from like a coordinator to a assistant or coach to a coordinator, no. You have to take a legitimate step forward from a, assistant somewhere to an offensive coordinator to a head coach. Like, you got to take a legit step forward. And I like that. And I think it makes a lot of sense. No lateral moves here. And they're still under contract. If they were free agents and their contract was up, yeah, then they can do whatever the hell they want. But I don't think just because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are doing this, that points a direction. I mean, listen, Grizzard still could get the job. I just don't think that has anything to do with it. Here we go. Bucs Basin Cohen said, time heals all wounds. Bro, you're knocking on the door right now trying to poach like the St. Canal. Come try to knock again in 2 years, even if you're still the coach in Jacksonville. Listen, I don't fault him for doing that because this is what all coaches do in sports. It's funny that you bring that up because I was looking at this last night at the Lightning game and looking at Coach Hiller from the Kings and how he had DJ Smith, who was the coach with Ottawa, and just looking at the Tampa Bay Lightning coaching staff and John Cooper bringing in Jeff Blashill, a guy that he knew pretty well, good buddy of his, who was the head coach for a while with the Detroit Red Wings. In hockey, maybe more than any other sport, you hire guys that you know. And you see guys that are just retreads and they coach a bunch of different teams like Peter DeBoer, right? You look at him. You look at Todd McClellan, who long time on the West Coast. Now he's with Detroit. He's done a really good job with the Red Wings. It's not a what you know thing. It's kind of a who you know thing. I think that's how life is, but especially for coaches and for football, because you have such a deep coaching staff. There's so many different guys and gals on the sideline that you want to know. You want to eliminate any type of uncertainty by bringing in somebody that you've never worked with before. So that is kind of a standard thing that you see a lot. You see a lot in the National Football League. And that's part of the reason why the Buccaneers want to keep that continuity. Just because they don't hire from within with Josh Grizzard, I mean, you could argue that the guys that they would bring in, if it's one of the two guys from the Rams, that their offense that they were able to kind of work with Sean McVay is going to be more similar with the offense that Liam Cohen ran, because that's where he got it from. Even though Grizzard was here for a year with Liam Cohen, you could argue that all his time with Miami and Mike McDaniel and Brian Flores, like, it's not like he's not familiar with it, but you're not getting two strangers if one of those two guys are the hire that are going to bring in a completely different offense. And I said this the other day. One of the most important things that you have to do, you have to make sure that this offense is going to be one that accentuates the strengths of your top players. And I'm looking no deeper than guys like Chris Godwin, if they bring him back, which we all think they do, and Bucky Irving. Those two guys, I don't want to say concerned, because that's probably too strong of a word, but those are the ones that I'm weary of, that I'm looking at. Okay, let's make sure that we see a lot of the same pre-snap movement. Let's see a lot of the intelligent blocking schemes and the focus and the onus on the run, like we saw with Liam Cohen, with whoever that next guy is going to be. Is anybody worried about Baker Mayfield? I don't think you can be. He's been able to be successful under Dave Canales and now Liam Cohen, gotten better from one year to the next. And he kind of is what he is. Is Baker Mayfield ever going to be a guy that is going to lead the Buccaneers to a Super Bowl? That remains to be seen. I've gone on record saying I don't think so. I'd be happy to be wrong, but we'll see. Also, Mike Evans, he's quarterback proof. He's offensive coordinator proof. He's team proof. Mike Evans is a beast, and I don't care who the offensive coordinator. He is still going to get his, and the Buccaneers are still going to make it a priority that he gets his 1,000 yards. We saw it this past season, and if he can stay healthy, there's no reason to think he's not going to do it in 2025. Offensively, get the right guy in there. And Rick Stroud just tweeted it out, and he's done such a great job. And if you missed our chat with Rick Stroud yesterday, any of our chats yesterday, it's up on my YouTube page. Again, tiny.cc/jrecher. Rick Stroud says the Bucs won't be helping Liam Cohen in Jacksonville after watching him renege on a deal that would have made him the highest paid offensive coordinator, only to take the Jacks head coaching job. They've now blocked him from hiring offensive line coach Kevin Carberry and assistant offensive line coach Brian Picucci, who worked with him at Kentucky. Now, if either one of those guys was going to get the offensive coordinator position, maybe we'd be having a different conversation today. But from them going from an offensive line coach there or here to there, it's just not going to happen. And trust me, those guys are under control when it comes to their contracts, and they're not going to be upset. Those guys are not looking at this Tampa Bay Buccaneers job like, oh man, I can't believe it. It's so horrible here. They like it here too. And they've both worked in football for a long time, and they've worked for a lot of different people, more than just Liam Cohen. And when their contract is up, if they want to go to Jacksonville and he's still there, more power to him. But let's keep this in mind too. Even though those guys know Liam Cohen, even though they've worked with him before, and you may want to work with him again. I'm not saying that they don't want to, but you have to look at these two situations. Do you want kind of a known commodity, especially knowing that the Buccaneers want you back? Like they don't want you to go anywhere. They're very happy with Carberry and Picucci. I am too, and I'm sure you are as well. The improved offensive line play tells you that. Would you rather be in Jacksonville with your guy? Maybe, because that's your boy. I understand that. But at the very least, let's say that is where you really want to be. You could do a lot worse with Tampa Bay being your consolation prize, knowing that you have all of these things right here ready to go for you. You have a quarterback, you have a slew of running backs, you have really good wide receivers and tight ends, you have 4/5 of your offensive line coming back, you have a veteran head coach. Like, you have a lot of things in place here. So even if you're one of those two guys that got their interviews blocked from going to Jacksonville, like, it's not like they're muddled in mediocrity somewhere. It's not like they're headed towards a team that's going to be 6-11, 7-10, a franchise in disarray, an organization that's run poorly. No, you're in Tampa Bay. And I guarantee you, those guys knew that they probably weren't going to get an opportunity to go to the Jacksonville Jaguars. There's nothing wrong with that. And they're looking forward. They have to. I mean, this is their job. As much as we talk about the relationships with Carberry and Picucci, like, they're their own human beings too. They're their own guys. So they're looking for their best interest, just like Liam Cohen was. When we have these discussions about movement, when it comes to players, when it comes to coaches, when it comes to front office members, guys like John Spytek, right? They have to do what's best for them. We may not approve of how they did it, just like Liam Cohen. But at the end of the day, they got to make the best decision for them and their family. Because when their football career is over, nobody's going to remember you. Nobody's going to care, because you know what? People are going to go on with their own lives. Nobody's going to stop going to work tomorrow because Liam Cohen isn't the offensive coordinator of the Buccaneers anymore. It's just the way it goes. You can have an opinion about it. You could think that he probably should have went about it in a different way. But hey, it's out of sight, out of mind. We'll talk about it. But as far as like anybody really like losing their lunch and going crazy and being just emotionally shattered because Liam Cohen isn't here, that's just not reality. Those joint practices should be fun. The first time these two teams play each other should be fun. But now he's building his team. He's building his coaching staff out. And listen, more power to the guy. He made the decision that he thought was best for him and his family. I don't wish anybody poorly. I wish him well, I guess. I mean, it is what it is. I'm indifferent. I'm apathetic. Like, hey, whatever. Not my concern. Not my worry anymore. Let's look forward and see what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are focused on, and that is going to be winning the division once again, making sure that they get into a spot where, hey, let's win the division and let's make a deeper run into the playoffs. I'm excited to see what the Bucs do in the offseason because I think defensively, and we've had our guy Josh Capo coming on from the Senior Bowl there in Mobile from Pewter Report, talking about the positions that they're focused on, talking about some of the players that they're looking at. And it all comes down to the 3 spots. I don't think it's really a surprise. You need a pass rusher on the outside. You need help in the interior linebacker position, and you need help at corner. If you can get those 3 spots, whether it's through trades, whether it's through free agency, or whether it's through the draft, and you can really fortify the top of those position groups as well as build some depth. I mean, watch out for the Bucs. Watch out because you already know what they're bringing back when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. If they can fortify that defense, plug in some of those holes, no doubt in my mind they're going to be a force, not just in the division, but the entire NFC as a whole. All right, let's bring 2 of the 3 guys in. We'll wait for our guy Corey Long here momentarily. We got our guy Mindy Matera from Pewter Report, David Schiele, the one true tribal chief there at the bottom. Hey, what's going on, gentlemen? How we doing?
Doing great, Jay. Thank you so much for having us on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, it's so funny because so I was at Amalie Arena all day yesterday. So for those who don't know here on the podcast, I am actually going to be doing my podcast every single Lightning home game from Amalie Arena. So shout out to the Bolts for hooking me up with a suite so I can go there and be able to do my show there. There may be some random horns in the background. There may be Sonia Brycey Kirksey national anthem in the background. Gentlemen, you'd be happy to know that I stood up during the national anthem. I couldn't talk over the legend that is Sonia Bryson Kirksey because she's amazing. But yeah, a lot of fun there. And I'll always be doing my show at Amalie Arena during home games. So just so everybody knows. And then my buddy Corey Long, NHL.com, he was like, yo, why don't we do a Royal Rumble roundtable? Because we did a roundtable after Liam Cohen left with Greg Allman from Fox Sports and Scott Reynolds from Pewter Report. And man, that thing went through the roof. It was amazing. People loved the roundtable. And instead of just being, and I've had both of you guys on individually before, now to have like a whole roundtable, and we'll bring in Corey Long from NHL.com. He's dropping truth bombs like always.
I haven't even changed that from the other day. So.
We appreciate you waking up from your nap for joining us, buddy.
Thank you. Yes.
I ain't lying, but doing the roundtable something different, man, because that's what we do here on the Jay Recher podcast. We're flipping the script.
It was my idea.
I just said that. I just gave you.
Yeah,
credit.
he was giving you props.
If your ass showed up on time, then you would have heard it.
Yeah.
But
make fun of me for sleeping until 12:29. You better give me credit for my ideas. That's all I'm saying.
Corey Long with a half good idea for the first time in his life. NHL.com. You can go check out his work there. All right, Royal Rumble. The reason why you guys are here, my favorite pay-per-view of all time. It just really starts off. It kicks things off as we go to WrestleMania season. Last year at Tropicana Field, just an incredible experience there. We saw Bayley win it. We saw Cody Rhodes win it. We'll get to the big matches here in a minute. I want to start right at the top with the championship match. Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens, the ladder match. You got the Winged Eagle. You got the official WWE Championship right next to it. Corey, we'll start with you. How do you see this match kind of shaking out? Does Cody retain? Does Kevin Owens somehow find a way to win this match? What kind of shenanigans or tomfoolery do you think we could be in store for?
Well, it's clear that Sami Zayn's going to be part of the match in an angle in some form, and he's been slipping up, making some, being a little over emotional, nailing his friends with that Helluva kick. So that's going to be the difference maker. I don't know if he's going to hit it on, my feeling is he might quote unquote accidentally hit it on his old best friend KO, and that will be the cause for Cody to win. I think Cody's going to win. I don't think they're going to go into WrestleMania without him having at least a year title reign under his belt. This isn't the time for him to drop anything. So, but it's definitely going to be a Sami Zayn. He's going to be the one that's going to cause the finish, however it happens.
What do you think, David? Do you think that's the way that it's going to go? Because I truly believe that's going to be it. We could be set up for a Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens WrestleMania match, but we've seen that before. So is there any adjustment to that, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really open to the creativity that could come from the finish of this ladder match. I just think right now KO is putting on some of the best heel work that we've seen. I mean, wearing Naomi's shirt for a match against Jimmy Uso, you know, like the dude is putting on some of the best heel work. There has to be some sort of payoff. Okay, if he doesn't win the title, then what is it? You know what I mean? And even if there's a situation where you have Cody drop it, he doesn't have to drop it for long. He could get it right back, you know. There is a scenario there. I think they didn't necessarily do this the exact way going into WrestleMania 33, but like it totally looked like, you know, Randy Orton after winning the Rumble was like, okay, what is he going to challenge John Cena? Like, really? We've seen that a million times, but then they did the whole thing with like Bray Wyatt's going to take it and just kind of hold it so Randy can go over. So like, you know, how do you want to do it? It depends, but I do think you just look story-wise. Hey, look, the story makes a ton of sense, right? We saw KO fight the Bloodline, I don't know how many times. Then Cody comes in, Cody finishes the story, and then teams up with Roman. You know, like, what are you talking about? So, like, Kevin's got a good point. And I think, look, if you're going to put him over, okay, well, this is the time to do it. Make the payoff there. And if you are going to involve Sammy, then the payoff of that needs to be worthy of something. Their match at Mania is going to have to be last man standing. We've seen them face each other a ton of times already.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I love that. I think the best heel work is ones when there's seeds of truth in there. It's one thing if you're a chicken shit heel, as they call them, and you're running from everything. But when you have a legitimate gripe like Kevin Owens does, and he's looking around, and you could, to a lesser extent, you know, Seth Rollins looking around going, what the hell is wrong with you guys? Didn't you just see the hell that this guy put us through for 3 freaking years? Now everybody's got this short-term memory like, oh, yeah, let's go help Roman and restore the bloodline. Like, I love it. I think the storyline makes a lot of sense. You put throwing up the ones there.
Just acknowledging them. Just acknowledging the tribal chief.
We're all acknowledging you.
I always acknowledge the tribal chief. That's right.
Matt, do you think Kevin Owens is the best heel right now in WWE?
I think he is certainly up there. There's no doubt about it. And I'm just absolutely thrilled for this match. And how cool is it that they made the announcement for the ladder match in Tampa when SmackDown was at Amalie Arena? The storyline and the storytelling is a big part of it. But the wrestling fan in me as well is I've always kind of gravitated more towards the hardcore matches, stipulations, tables, ladders, chairs, whatever. So I'm just so excited for two guys that always put it on the line when you have these stipulation matches. Like KO is going to take some gnarly bumps. He's going to do some crazy senton onto a ladder. Remember when Cody was in AEW and he took that cutter from Sammy Guevara in a ladder match? Like, that was insane as well. So I'm just excited for the match itself, regardless of who wins, just based on the theatrics that we're going to get from it. I kind of like your idea, David, with maybe KO wins, but then gives it back to Cody Rhodes, because KO, I think in a lot of promos, packages for various storylines, whether it was the last man standing match a couple years ago against Roman, like he puts the storylines on his back and does a lot of the work. And that's not taking away from all of the other guys. You know, he's the one that went up against Stone Cold in WrestleMania and took the loss. Like, at some point, Kevin Owens needs to be rewarded for all the hard work that he's doing. And even if it's just giving him the title for a little bit and you give it back to Cody, that's totally fine, because I think Cody needs to have the title going into WrestleMania, because it gives you a lot more options for what you want to do with that title when WrestleMania comes about. And we can obviously talk about those options when we get to the Rumble match itself. But the fireworks of just the hardcore nature, the ladders, I'm sure chairs will be in there as well, and other things. It's just going to be so much fun.
And I'm glad you said that about, like, you love the hardcore wrestling, you love the tables, ladders, and chairs, and anytime you say that, I think of the Dudley Boys, the Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, everything that they were able to do in the late 90s and early 2000s. But I like what you guys are saying, because one thing I do enjoy, and we haven't seen it as much, is I like, and we saw with Jey Uso and Braun Breaker, where he was able to win, and then Braun was able to go back and win. Like, if you do that all the time, I understand that you maybe devalue the belt a little bit, right? But every once in a while, that guy, we always talk about, does the guy make the title or does the title make the guy? I think sometimes you need a little bit of a justification. Like, Jey Uso needs to have on his resume Intercontinental Champion. And I'm thinking of that same kind of thing with Kevin Owens, where him beating Cody and being the WWE Champion, I don't think would be the worst thing. And what if Cody goes, hey, I want a rematch and I want it next Friday on SmackDown, and you have them go for like an hour on SmackDown and then Cody wins it back, right? Where you turn one of my favorite title changes ever. I think it was Batista and Jericho here in Tampa on Monday Night Raw in a steel cage match. Like everybody's like, there's no way Jericho's going to win this. And he won. And everybody was like, holy shit. Like that's what you want, to be surprised. You want that shock and awe. Let's go. I want to go through the tag team match real quick. Matt, we'll start with you. 2 out of 3 falls with DIY and Motor City Machine Guns. This is a match for like the old school, if you love independent wrestling, if you love TNA, if you have been following these guys throughout their entire journey, I mean, you just know whether you are familiar with these guys because you're a little bit more of a casual fan or not, you are just going to get probably 25 to 30 minutes of some of the best wrestling and storytelling that you're going to see all night long.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing DIY. Their obviously storyline going back to NXT and, being a tag team and then turning on each other and all that stuff. It's always been very interesting. I'm not going to lie, though. I don't really know much about the other tag team, the Motor City Machine Guns. I know they beat the Bloodline and got the tag team titles, so I'm excited for just a good wrestling match, but I can't tell you that I have all the interest in the world in it.
They didn't beat the real Bloodline. You get it straight.
Yeah.
Like
2.0.
Yeah, the other Bloodline.
So they didn't beat the real Bloodline. They beat the fall Bloodline.
David, what do you think about that tag team match?
Yeah, man, I'm somebody who dabbled into TNA growing up. I remember the days of 6-sided rings, Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle and Christian Cage. So, Motor City Machine Guns, look, them coming to WWE, I think is about 10 years too late, but they can still go. We saw that clearly. They can still go. I like what they're doing with DIY right now. I think the tag team division is in a strong place. I think there are so many good stories just within the tag team division. It doesn't feel like they just have a couple of guys like, let's just put them in a tag team. Oh, okay, let's just throw them in a tag team. I think the tag team division really is in a good spot. And I think this match is going to cook. This match it's going to be one of those like, that match was awesome. I don't think it's going to steal the show. It's hard to steal the show at the Royal Rumble when you've got not just one, but now 2 Royal Rumbles that you're competing with on that card. But I think that's going to be a match where like, that match was legit. That was awesome. We've got 4 guys who, they can just flat out wrestle. So I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Court?
Yeah. It's 4 guys that have really, that have put in the work over a long period of time. That you got to think when they've all run a lot of different territories together. So the idea of them being on big show in a marquee position, probably going to get 18, 20, 25 minutes. They're going to put on a show. They're probably something they've dreamed about and, doing it with each other, doing it with people that know them inside and out. And I'm sure they've got a lot of stuff planned for this. I get a feeling that Gargano and Ciampa are trying to redo a lot of their NXT story on the main card, which tells me this might be where you see a title switch. I know obviously Ciampa's planted the seeds for a long time. He got Gargano to go with him, but I do feel like there's a one-on-one story they really want to tell, and this might be the beginning of it in terms of that. It was one that took a very long time in NXT that, it happened. Ciampa, had an incredible run. He gets his neck injured. Gargano gets a quick title reign. They're away. They come back. Gargano turns on him the second time, creates the way, which, one of my favorite underappreciated little groups was the way.
Right.
And,
Austin Theory and Indy Hartwell. Yeah.
Yeah, Indy Hartwell and Austin Theory.
Cutting off, but you got to do it.
Don't forget Dexter. Dexter was up in there at the end.
Dexter,
yeah. So, I think there's a really long form story they want to tell, and given at this stage in their careers, I'm sure that's important for both of them to have, some spotlight one-on-one matches against each other. So that's just my feeling. That's where the seeds to that might happen this Saturday. They might begin this Saturday.
And if they don't, maybe it's something that happens later on in the summer so they can establish some dominance so people can get invested. Because the big thing, and you remember one of the biggest turns ever was them at the top of the ramp in NXT, arm around each other, and Tommaso Ciampa just grabbed Johnny Gargano, and nobody saw that coming. That was a real late in the pay-per-view or PLE, and everybody thought they were going to go off air, and then boom. everything happened, it was like, wow, Tommaso Ciampa, going like this, just pissing everybody off. But yeah, great storyline. Some of the matches that they had, I think they had a empty arena match that was really good where Candice LeRae came in and hit him beneath the belt. So some really, really good stuff there. David, you brought up a point. I want to go right back to you here. We're going to give our predictions for the winners, but give me somebody that's going to steal the show, not a winner, but somebody's going to steal the show in the men's Royal Rumble match and the women's Royal Rumble match.
Well,
that's a good question. I'm bringing this out of nowhere. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm going to start with the women's because I know that's the one where you get the most surprises just because roster wise, you can't you can't just throw everybody out there. We're going to see Jade. At least I think we will. You got to have that. I would like to see Jordan Grace. It was awesome to see her in the Rumble in person last year. So I think that's going to be great. CM Punk keeps teasing this whole AJ thing. Okay, all right, let's see it happen. Let's make that happen. So I think the women's Rumble is going to be so good. Charlotte coming back as well. When it comes to stealing the show, truly, it's really hard to upstage the things that, if you really look at it, Bianca does in the Rumble. Because number one, it's always when she comes in and gets her shine, the strength that she just displays. It's always okay, who can I pick up now? Who can I, suplex now? Who can I just do, who can I just do a scoop slam to? It's always something. It's always something. And it's always a pain to eliminate her. If you look back too, it's never an easy elimination. I think last year the KOD on the apron to get Jordan Grace out, like stuff like that. That's all that stands out to me as yo, that was dope. When I think back to that Rumble, I remember three things: Naomi's return, Bianca and Jade's stare down, the KOD, so everything with Bianca, and then Chelsea Green just being hilarious. Those are the three
Chelsea
things.
Green,
Chelsea Green absolutely has the ability to steal the Royal Rumble as well. Okay,
so you got Bianca.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say Bianca, and then Chelsea Green gets an honorable mention just because Chelsea Green is Chelsea Green. I think that's gonna be awesome. Men's wise, man, that's hard because the men's Rumble, it's everyone comes in and kind of get their shine for a little bit, but there's usually that one guy who comes in and just starts eliminating everybody. That might be Braun Breaker again. I can see that. It might be Braun Breaker again, but dude, I'm trying to think if anybody else could really be that candidate. Cause sure, maybe Braun Strowman, but I don't know if you guys have been watching that live stream. WWE's just been showing random Royal Rumble matches 24/7 all week long. Every Royal Rumble I see, it's all as soon as the biggest guy gets in there, everyone just gangs up on him, and your side's advantage becomes a disadvantage.
Right.
So I don't know if I want to just be it'll be Braun Breaker or Braun Strowman. I think it might be Braun Breaker.
Okay, I like that one. All right, Corey, we'll go to you next. Stealing the show, men, women, who you got?
On the women's side, there were a few names that stuck out to me. I mean, and if you look, in the 6-7 year of the women's Rumble, there have been a lot of coast to coast, whether they won or not. Rhea came in at 1, and Bailey did it from 1 last year. I think Bianca was a 1 or 2 when she won. I think Sasha came in at 1 and did a really long run. So someone's going to come in early and go 45, 50 minutes. Right now, Roxanne Perez is my real pick for that person that's going to really have a nice long stretch. Lyra Valkyria is another one that I think could really have a nice, long, impressive stretch. In terms of winning, I think I hear a lot.
We'll get to the hold on. We'll get to the winning
later. Okay,
let's do the steal the show ones first.
Okay, yeah.
Who's your steal the show for the men? You got Roxanne for the women.
What I think is going to get a nice long run in there. Carmelo Hayes.
Mello, okay, Mello.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that needs to have a nice. I'm looking back at maybe the 18 Rumble when Finn Balor, I think, went over 50 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was a really good springboard for him. I think Carmelo's got that ability. And, I'd love to see someone from NXT come in. And I'd love to see Oba Femi come in and just
Yeah,
red shop for
and
like
shout
a
out
little
to
5-minute period.
TB Punk Film saying Oba. That's a
Yeah.
good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to see Oba come in and wreck shop and maybe get eliminated by Dom the same way Braun got eliminated by Dom last year. So, something funny like that, some good way for Dom to keep that wonderful heat that he has. So I think Melo's going to have a nice run this year.
What about you, Matt? Who's stealing the show, men and women?
So for the men's, I think he's going to be in the Rumble, and if he's not, I apologize. But it seems like the WWE has really been trying to build up Jacob Fatu for a while now. So if he gets into the Rumble, it just seems like they're going to be like, oh my God, he's crazy. And he's going to be the one to like eliminate 5 to 10 different people. Look at all this different movesets. A guy this big shouldn't be able to fly off the top rope the way that he's doing it. So he seems like the top guy to just go in and run the whole ring, run everybody out of town once he gets in. Oh my God, he's a psycho. Look what he's doing. Whatever Paul Heyman said about him back in the day, like he's not even allowed in prisons or whatever that case was. I'm also very curious because a staple of the Rumble for years now has been what type of like wacky stunt is Kofi Kingston going to do? But now he's a bad guy. So how do you incorporate that into the Royal Rumble this year, because people are booing the New Day and they don't want to see the New Day succeed. But also you have Kofi doing what he's done every single year in the Rumble. So I'm interested in that storyline, and that kind of carries over into the Women's Royal Rumble with Naomi, who also kind of has that spot with doing crazy things, crazy flips, staying on the rope, staying alive in the match. And now with this new wrinkle with her tag team with Bianca, I think that could be very interesting as well.
All right, so you got Jacob / Kofi and then Naomi on the women's side. All right, so here's my kind of prognostication a little bit here. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Brock Lesnar return. I think that would be one of those things that kind of just shakes everything. People would lose their mind. Another guy that we haven't mentioned that I think you talk about moments, Logan Paul is going to do something crazy. Right, he's going to do something like we saw him and Ricochet do that thing. But I think the answer for this could be Penta, right, in his first Royal Rumble.
That's good. Matt,
you brought up the New Day. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I don't know for sure, but it would make sense if the New Day eliminated a guy or two, and then the music hits. Y'all want to go big? And here comes Big E. He comes down. You can keep him kind of in a way where he's protected a little bit. Maybe you have them throw him out. But I think Big E's return after all these months, after all these years, rather, I think would be a huge show stealer. I'm with you guys when it comes to the women's side. I think it's about surprising. It's either the big Nia Jax going in there doing her thing. Hell, we could say the women on the men's side, because we've seen women enter the men's Royal Rumble with Nia and how well she's done. I like maybe one of the new faces, whether it's Stephanie Vacker or Julia. I think maybe one of those two ladies coming up from NXT. That could be the answer. But I think the answer here, and we kind of touched on a little bit, is we just talked about her. Strong Jordan Grace. I think Jordan Grace. Now, she just dropped the title over there in TNA. I think she's WWE bound. She is in insane shape. She's probably got the best physique when it comes to women in professional wrestling. And she had a before and after picture on her social media the other day. And I think Jordan Grace she is a game changer, because I don't know where you put her when she's on the main roster, but I think she's going to go in there, and it's not just going to be a moonlighting thing. She's going to go in there and she's going to kick some legitimate ass, some Rhea Ripley, some Nia Jax, some Jade Cargill, who I think could be another option as well, returning. I mean, Jade and Naomi squaring off, saying, hey, you took my belt, right? Are you the person that attacked me? I think is maybe the way that you go. But I'll go Jordan Grace for mine. All right, we'll finish it off with the winner. Who do you think is going to win this entire thing, men and women? Corey, we'll start with you.
I'm down to 5. So the 5 that I think have the shot. I think it's going to be Roman. I think you're looking at Drew. I think Seth Rollins, CM Punk, and there was one more in there that
Jey Uso.
Excuse me. No,
Jey Uso.
Not Jay. But there's one more in there. Definitely, I looked at it and said,
Sami Zayn.
Not Sammy, because I don't think Sammy's gonna.
Brock?
No, I don't think. See, like Brock, Big E, man, Lloyd's in London is gonna love you, man. Some of them insurance, some guys I don't think we're ever gonna get it cleared by an insurance company to compete in this thing again. No, Cena was the other guy out, and so the question comes down to, who's probably the title match. I would. Who's Gunther gonna go after? Who's Cody gonna, if he has a title? Like who's gonna be paired up to dance with who? They need a dance partner for Gunther, probably more so than Cody. There's a few names out there you can go with. So I am going to say that John Cena is going to win it. He's going to take on Gunther at WrestleMania, and he'll get his title shot there. I don't know if that will end tonight. I don't know if that'll end night 1 or night 2. If it'll be a show starter. But that's where I'm leaning at right now. Leaning to John Cena.
And the women's.
The women's side. I think Charlotte gets a late number and wins. I think she gets a 30, 27, 20. I think she ends up I think Becky Lynch is also going to be in this Rumble. So that could be your final two right there.
What do you think, David? You're next.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Charlotte on the women's side. I just think I know it's kind of low-hanging fruit, but we haven't seen Charlotte in a while. It wouldn't make sense. And I think it would be really cool to see kind of the new blood versus the young blood and have her challenge Stratton for the title where, okay, you think it's Tiffy time? Well, you're on the Queen's time now, something like that kind of thing. I think that would be actually really good. Cause dude, Stratton, I mean, they've put the rocket on her back. So, might as well, put her in the ring with Charlotte at Mania. I think that'd be great.
They're almost like clones. They both, put them in the gymnastics background that they do. They're really similar. They're similar.
They're very similar. And I mean, first of all, as much as people like to just crap on Charlotte has aura. As much as people try to deny it, that music.
And look at what she's done in WrestleMania. She's done on bangers.
Yeah, man.
That match with Rhea is an all-time classic. Like her first match with Rhea in the empty arena was a great match. Her match with Asuka, amazing. Like Charlotte does not miss at WrestleMania.
That's what I'm saying.
Big game performer.
So you put her in the ring with Stratton, bro. I think that's gonna be fire. Like that's a good move. And then on the men's side, it really could be anybody. But I'm gonna tell you right now, you got to capitalize on something. Like one stat that I read. Roman Reigns has, every time he's in the Royal Rumble, he has always been in the Final Four. Period. I think Roman's going to be in the Final Four, but your Final Four has to be, in my opinion, Roman Reigns, John Cena, CM Punk. Just last year he was hurt in the Rumble, and I think you got to put Jey Uso in that Final Four.
Yeah, yep.
Here's why. Even though he's had world title matches, right, and he's lost, he still has not lost his momentum. The dude lost on Saturday night's main event. His entire segment on Raw 2 days later was just his entrance. Place was rocking. Still, I remember going to the Rumble last year and then the Raw after Rumble at Amalie, had the place rocking. Like he's been doing that. We've been yeeting for almost 2 years, guys.
He's bulletproof right now, man. He's the hottest star right now. He's hot.
People and even though he's not on I think he's not officially on SmackDown, right? He still came out and did the dark match. People are paying to see his entrance. They're like, I want to see Jay. So they've put him in that role where like, we're gonna work you, like people are paying. They just want to see your entrance. Okay, cool. Like we're gonna give them that. Okay, well, let's do something with it. I think you got to put him in the Final Four. Your winner, it really might be Cena. Like I know he's older and it's his last time. It really might be Cena. But I kind of like what he did with Roman a couple years ago, where it's like, dude, I don't have to beat you. I just got to pin you.
Yeah.
he doesn't have to really throw anybody over the top rope. He just
Mhm.
got to make sure they get out and he
Right.
stays in.
Mhm.
So he could do it in a way where it's like, I see Roman and I see Jay on the apron. I might just push him.
Yeah, I like that.
You
Matt,
know?
what do you
Things
got?
like that.
I love all the answers that have been given. I love Charlotte. Big fan of hers. I'm going to go in a little bit of a direction, though, and
love
say
it.
Bianca Belair.
Ooh.
It hasn't been the best season for her, taking a little bit of a back seat. But I think this is a great opportunity to kind of hotshot her once again for WrestleMania. And you talk about showing up with big performances at WrestleMania. Bianca Belair is one of those people that delivers time and time again when she wrestles at WrestleMania. So I'll take her for the women's one. Real quick for the men's, a couple of surprises that I think we might see.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the Hardy Boys, just because their connection with TNA now. And Jeff Hardy floated out that he wanted to wrestle Roman Reigns at some point.
Mhm.
So I think maybe they'll do like a fun little quick nod to it of them like staring at each other or something like that. Also, don't rule out Bad Bunny. Just dropped the new album. Obviously talked about wrestling again, so it'd be a good way to promote the new album that just came out. And I love Bad Bunny, of course. So
Great job, man.
Yeah.
Terrible on Hot Ones. I don't know if you guys saw Bad Bunny on Hot Ones.
I only saw a brief clip.
Wasn't great. It wasn't great. It didn't. He was like eating ice cream like a cat. It was awful. It was awkward. I'm like, damn, bro, don't do this ever again. Get back in the wrestling ring. All right, sorry, go ahead.
No worries at all. And for the men's, I, again, completely agree with everyone. There are about 5 or 6 guys that you could pick to win, and they all make sense. But when I look at who I think is going to win, you got a long-term book a little bit for what's down the road at WrestleMania. So I want John Cena to win, but I think there's more there with like, oh, he didn't win the Rumble. Is John ever going to win a title again? Oh, well, what about Elimination Chamber or another stipulation or something like that? So I think they'll kind of run with that storyline a little bit more for John Cena. I'm actually going to pick Seth Rollins for this because Seth Rollins, again, has been a workhorse for this company for a long time. We all know what he did last WrestleMania, fighting both nights with the knee injury, putting over guys, going in the main event, maybe a little bit overlooked compared to Cody and Roman Reigns. And what I like about this WrestleMania as well is that it's not just all right, let's get back to Cody and Roman, another main event. And that's not a bad thing. I'm certainly not complaining. But if Seth wins, I think you can kind of put him with Gunther. And then that opens up a lot of roads, no pun intended, for what does CM Punk do with that favor that he still has in store? Does he use that to cash in for a WrestleMania main event against Cody? John Cena, when he came back for the first Netflix show, was like, do you want to see me fight Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania? And everybody went wild. So, like, that's open. There's also that dangling carrot of what about Dwayne The Rock Johnson? Is The Rock coming back? Then you can do Roman versus Rock or Rock versus Cody. You don't want to pigeonhole yourself into Punk winning, Roman winning, something like that. And then they have to immediately go against, because we're not going to get Roman versus Gunther at WrestleMania. That's just not going to be what it is. So you don't want to pigeonhole yourself, kind of like how it was last year. Cody won. All of a sudden, The Rock's like, yo, I want to wrestle again. And then you got into the whole situation. The fans want this. Creative wants to do that. You don't want to pigeonhole yourself again in that type of situation. So by Seth winning, you can put him off with Gunther, and that's going to be a banger of a match, no doubt about it. And then you can still have all the options for Cody, Punk, Cena, Roman, and potentially The Rock. So I think it just opens way more avenues by having Seth Rollins win.
Brother, you made one of the arguments today, bro. I like the way your mind is working there. I'm not going to get influenced by any of you guys, though. I initially think I think when you look at Charlotte and her wrestling Tiffany Stratton, that is like, it sells itself. Like, I don't even know if you need to write that, but I also don't know if you need to be able to tell that story at the Royal Rumble, right? You can let her go and build it up. Maybe she wins Elimination Chamber, right? Like, I agree. I think Bianca and Rhea is the matchup that we haven't seen on the with WWE. We've seen it in NXT, but we haven't seen that on the main roster. And I think that really, when you think about star power, I think about Becky Lynch, I think about Charlotte Flair, I think about Rhea Ripley, and I think about Bianca Belair. I think those are your 4 biggest stars. I know Tiffany Stratton's in there now, but I'm talking about household names. Those 4 girls are in there. Keep an eye out for Alexa Bliss's return. That's another one we got to keep an eye out. Like, they love pushing her, and we know that she can do whatever. Babyface, heel. Does she come back and she involved with the Wyatt Six, which I think has been a really disappointing storyline the last couple of weeks. We barely even talked about it. So I'm going to go with, I think it's between Bianca or Charlotte, but I'm going to go with Bianca because I think that's going to cause some of the dissension. And don't be surprised if we're talking about all these matches like they're going to be one-on-one. But we know this is the WWE. There's going to be a triple threat match. There's too many good people at the top of the card on both sides. So do we see a Reigns, Cena, Cody WrestleMania main event? Do we see a Bianca, Jade, Rhea triple threat match? Because think about those three powerhouses in one match. Like that would be insane. I'm gonna flip back. So bad. I'm gonna go Charlotte. I gotta go Charlotte, even though I would love to say Bianca. I wrote Bianca, but I think Charlotte against Tiffany Stratton. I talked myself out of it, talking myself back into it. I think those other two, because she is the tag team champ. I don't know if they'll have Bianca win it. They'll figure that out. For the men's side, I'm glad that I'm only one picking this guy. I love your argument, Matt. But CM Punk and Cody Rhodes is the number one story on the men's side, regardless of what anybody says with the Reigns and Rock, and there's a lot of uncertainty. I do think Brock Lesnar, Gunther is the match you make. If it's not Rollins, I think Rollins makes a lot of sense too for Gunther. Hey, I'm the guy that made the world heavyweight champion mean something. Look at how long I got it before I lost it to Drew, who lost it to Damian Priest, who lost it to Gunther. I like that match. I think one thing that's going to happen in this is CM Punk and Cody Rhodes, which they've been teasing this entire time. That's going to be the main event of one of these WrestleMania nights. Also, I think we're headed towards Rock and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania in some form or fashion. And the reason why and how it's going to be done is that The Rock is going to put Drew McIntyre. I think Drew McIntyre is the guy that eliminates Roman Reigns. He's been kind of meandering on the periphery right now, fighting everybody else. But if you're bitching and moaning and you're picking off everybody else, you're such a big tough guy. You're the Scottish psychopath. That's the guy you got the problem with. So look that man in his eyes. So don't be surprised if that feud with The Rock as the puppet master. Because if you remember when Drew McIntyre re-signed with the WWE, I don't know if you guys saw this, The Rock bought him a huge ass sword that he delivered to him at a restaurant. And he promised that he was going to get it for him. He delivered to him at a restaurant. He said, "You're a man of your word." And I thought that was planting the seed of a payback of a help down the road. So I'm going to go CM Punk to set up the match with Cody Rhodes, and then Charlotte to set up the match with Tiffany Stratton. Gentlemen, this has been a lot of fun. Any parting words? Matt, we'll start with you. Parting shots?
No, just kind of what you said from the beginning. I love the Royal Rumble as well. I love the surprises. You never know who's going to show up. It's a little bit of a nostalgia act as well. And I'm just super pumped for Saturday. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be amazing.
How about you, David?
Man, one thing I miss about Royal Rumbles of old is just hearing all the great theme songs. Because last year I was hearing songs and I was like, who in the heck is that? I have no idea whose song that is until I saw the lower third. And I was like, oh, okay. I miss the old theme songs. I'm going to tell you right now, I would love in the middle of the Rumble just to get a, oh, radio. I want to pop. I want to pop, man. Come on.
He wants to pop. Corey.
It just makes me think that, we probably were all at the last real sold out event at Tropicana Field. So pour one out for the Trop, and I'm glad that we all got to experience a Rumble here in the at the Trop before things went to hell. So
literally and figuratively, that is right. Matt Matera, Pewter Report, go check his stuff out there. David Schiele, 10 Tampa Bay, and our guy Corey Long, NHL.com. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for your time today. This was a fantastic chat. Let's do it again leading up to WrestleMania. How about it?
Absolutely.
100%.
Let's do it.
Throw up the ones. We're acknowledging the J Retro podcast. Appreciate you guys. Thank you. Good stuff there from my boys, man. We have so much fun talking wrestling with my dudes right there. Go follow them on all social media platforms. Again, some really, really great work there. Okay, I said it during this time slot we were going to talk a little Rays baseball, so I want to get to that here real quick before the great Paul Kennedy joins us. When you look at the Rays' future, okay, it's exciting to see some of these names in the spring training camp invites that are going to break camp with the big club. When you look at, and this is what Mark Topkin was able to publish yesterday, Carson Williams, Braden Taylor, Xavier Isaac, and Trey Morgan, Chandler Simpson, and then Dominic Keegan. These are guys that are part of the future of what this race team could potentially look like when a new stadium is built. I don't want to say if, I'm putting the good positive vibes out there. But I want to see these guys. And all of them finished last year at AA Montgomery with the Biscuits. They'll be AAA guys, and you don't want to rush them. I understand. But what they did last year, bringing up Junior Caminero so that he could get his feet wet and to get him assimilated to Major League Baseball, I really hope they do with a bunch of these guys. This team has to capitalize on the pitchers that they have and to try to build some excitement as we get closer and closer to 2029. How they're handling their position players, I think, needs an adjustment. I think they need to fast track some of these guys. They need to bring them up. I don't want to see them struggle at AAA. I mean, we've seen these guys where they've taken as much time as possible, and then they bring them up, and they're like, look, they were marinating down at AAA forever, and they have 500 at-bats. And then they come up here, and they don't adjust. If they're that good, they'll be ready. They'll be ready to go. I mean, you think about the names the last couple of years, and Vidal Brujans, and the Taylor Walls, and the Jonathan Arandas, and the Richie Schaefers, and all these different guys that have been called up, and everybody's like, oh, they're going to be so great. They're going to hit. They're going to do such a great job. They didn't do it. Get these guys up here with the big league level, and let's see what they're all about. Can they contribute or can they not? Let's not mess around. The Rays, let's press fast forward a little bit on some of these guys. The other thing that has been talked about a lot is Hall of Fame shortstop Barry Larkin held a news conference in Orlando next to renderings of a $1.7 billion ballpark that will be built near SeaWorld. His group, known as the Orlando Dreamers, opening to get a team through relocation or expansion. If you're having that much difficulty with what is going on in Tampa, do you think Rob Manfred is going to be so excited? And do you think that he's going to prioritize putting a stadium in Orlando when you have a lot of tourists? You have a lot of people. Like, listen, Orlando Magic, fine. All right. You can look at that. You can look at UCF. That's fine. All right. But think about it. Like, nationally, how many Magic fans do you know? Is that a brand? Because if you're putting it in a place like that where there's a lot of, people from all over the world, which is great. Okay. But we have a lot of people here in the Tampa Bay area that come here for vacations, and that doesn't necessarily help out the attendance. Does it? We're having attendance issues here. And oh yeah, what about the public money? Do they have the public money to be able to put up what it takes to build this stadium? One thing that we've learned, whether it's, fairly or unfairly, is you can't just say you want a team. You can't just say you want a stadium. We know that there's a lot of layers to this. We know that there's a lot of steps that need to be taken in order for you to be able to get a team. And just because you have a former professional athlete saying, oh, we could do this and we could do that. Like, all right, well, who's putting up the money, Barry? You're putting up the money? Because we got a lot of people with money here in the Tampa Bay area. But we had issues raising the money here on the Tampa side. We're having issues with the owner of the Rays on the St. Pete side. So I don't know. Every couple of years we hear this about Orlando wanting a Major League Baseball team. But if you're Rob Manfred and you're looking at some of these other cities in the country and you look at Las Vegas and you see that now, I'm just looking at teams that don't have a permanent team right now. Las Vegas, you're looking at teams like, cities like Nashville. Do you go somewhere in North Carolina as well? Do you go up into the Pacific Northwest? Maybe, right? I don't know if Orlando's the place where you look at and go, yep, definitely. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a home run proposition whatsoever. You would love to have another team here in Florida. You have the three-way dance here like you have with the NFL. But when you're looking at Rob Manfred, do you think that you need to expand to another city in a state that is already struggling with attendance numbers? Miami has trouble drawing. We know the Rays have trouble drawing. So you want to invest again in the state of Florida, and then it doesn't work in Orlando, then what? That's like throwing bad money after bad money. No, we're not talking Bad Bunny. We're talking Bad Money. It is a dream, and their names are the Orlando Dreamers. But baseball and Rob Manfred, they're dealing with reality. And the reality of the situation, I just don't know if it makes dollars, if it makes sense. I don't know. There's plenty of other things that I would rather worry about when it comes to sports right now. I just don't see this being a reality. Those fans that care enough about baseball, they're Rays fans. They drive, they make that drive. Do we hear, like, is there a big groundswell? Is there a petition signed by hundreds of thousands of people that have proven that they want baseball in the area? I don't know. And we'll be joined here momentarily by our guy, Paul Kennedy from the Fanduel Sports Network, who does such a great job with the Tampa Bay Lightning, but he actually lives in the Orlando area, and he drives from Orlando out here to Tampa. It is amazing that he makes that trek down I-4 to be able to cover this Tampa Bay Lightning team. But we'll see what he has to say, because he is a guy that's familiar with the area, and he'll be able to tell us, hey, it would work, it wouldn't work. Here are some of the obstacles that they would face. But I just, initially, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Let's continue to get those subscribers up, and share this with everybody that you know. And let's bring him in here. I think you got to bring him in. It's known as Pablo the Magnificent. You got to fix your camera. Switch it the other way, Ball.
Hold on, buddy.
Hold it.
Hold on. This is going to be ugly.
There we go.
Hold on.
Hold it.
Hold on. My God, man.
It's okay. Is that your computer or your phone?
But it's got to be phone today. My computer.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Across town with the golden doodle.
Oh, no problem at all, buddy.
I don't. Am I holding you up on your podcast?
No, no, you're fine. This is the great thing about the podcast.
Huh?
We're fine. We're good.
Hold on, buddy.
Yeah, you're good, man. Oh, I like it. The great Paul Kennedy joining us momentarily, doing a great job as always on the Fanduel Sports Network.
Let me say this. If I do it like this, hold on. If I do it like this, it won't turn.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not turning for you there, buddy. Hold on. Put it sideways again for me. Oh,
okay.
No, it's for some reason it's not filling out the screen like that.
Hup.
No, that's not it.
Hold on. We have for a moment.
No, that was just there we go.
How about that?
That works.
How about hold on? We are making some.
That's fine. Prop something up behind it. Yeah, there we go.
Hold on.
We're good, pal. I love the name, Pablo the Magnificent.
I don't leave that up there. Do I need to change the name?
No, of course not. That's the great thing about the podcast, man. It's so laid back, and you can kind of do what you want. And there we go. The great Paul Kennedy joining us. A big hi from Joe Boo from Major League. He's here joining us today. So
I got the Team USA represented here. Miracle on Ice.
It's a beautiful thing. Mike Ruzioni and the entire crew over there. And Paul, we'll talk some Lightning hockey here in a bit, but I wanted to ask you, we're hearing from the Orlando Dreamers and from a guy that lives out there. What do you think the realistic possibility of a major league team there out in Orlando?
I think there's significant interest. And by that, I mean capital interest, people with money. I find it very interesting. And let me preface that by saying I was friends for nearly 40 years with Pat Williams, and I never discounted his vision or dreaming, because he brought the NBA here and ushered in major league sport across Central Florida. Other than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, from the old Sombrero all the way through Central Florida, up through Jacksonville, and all the way down to Miami, there was no professional major league sport when the Magic arrived in 1989. You think about that. Right. The Jags didn't exist. Certainly, baseball did not exist in Tampa. But he made it happen here, and he had to convince the league that it would work, and it thrived. And then Phil Esposito came along and barnstormed with the hockey teams before he had hockey here and convinced the league it would thrive, and it exploded. So his dream still has a flicker of hope. And I think the race is here on 2 points. Number one, to find brick and mortar real estate that would hold a stadium. That's the big issue in Tampa. And the second is, do major league owners, you tell me, would they accept a transfer into a new marketplace? It certainly wouldn't affect or compete with the Rays with the Marlins, because their games are televised all throughout the state. But in terms of sharing with the other clubs newfound money, a newfound expansion fee, that's who they'd be up against. Is someone willing to pay $600 million to $1 billion to become the newest team in baseball? Here, if you move the Rays, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I don't want that to happen, or someone might not. But if that happens, then the owners don't share in new revenues from an expansion fee. I think that they would be hesitant. You and I could go get a group that would and back us for, and our expansion fee is what, $1 billion to get a baseball team?
Yeah.
And the owners their ears would perk up to that. You do have Disney here. You do have that baseball park at Disney, which could, within reason, be readily retrofitted in short term. I don't know about long term. And you have ample parking. Would it work? I don't know. Let me also say this, Coach Jay. Barry Larkin doesn't jump off the bridge right away without thinking about it. And he's gotten in with both feet. The great Barry Larkin, the Hall of Fame shortstop. What a phenomenal player he was in his career. What does he have to gain by getting involved in this? But he is. Wonderful gentleman was when he was playing. Is now an Orlando resident. He could embrace a number of, he being the celebrity frontman, if that's the term. I don't want to discount his intellectual capacities, but he has great credibility, don't you think, if he says something? Like having, yeah. The other thing I need to say, because I was very, very fortunate, blessed, at the outset of the Marlins with Wayne Huizinga and Sunshine Network and Dave Olmstead, the founder of cable television in this state, and Jay Randolph and Gary Carter, the late great Hall of Fame catcher. I was the third man on that telecast crew for 5 years. And we did games outside at what was then Joe Robbie and then Pro Players Stadium, the home of the Dolphins, outside in June, July, August. And my dry cleaning bill was pretty good. I was a gold. My dry cleaning guy sent me a Christmas card. Let me put it that way. Because what the great blessing of the Trop is this. And I always said, do you realize what you have here? It has a roof. It's air conditioned. It's 72 degrees, and the games start on time.
Right.
Miami, they built after Pro Player or whatever it was, Jimmy Buffett's Land Shark, they built a stadium with a roof. And in Florida, I would come into the booth drenched going down to the cage before a game. But here, I always thought it was a blessing to have that stadium. And obviously, I was in the minority, but I said, be careful, you'll miss it. You don't know what you've got till it's gone. And so it'll be interesting to see. I was having flashbacks of June and July and August as we moved to Steinbrenner Field. What it's going to be like this summer. We're going to televise the games on our network. So I want us to be successful. And we're going to get the games in. The games that are supposed to start at 7 o'clock, they may not start till 8 o'clock. The tarp may be out. But I'm going to tell you, we're going to get those games in. So they may be a little late. But you want it comfortable for your significant other, your wife, your children. You want it to be a good experience for them. That was a long-winded answer.
No, it's great. It's great, brother. I love hearing from you.
Wrap it up. Wrap it up.
I'm going to cut that snippet and send it to our guys, Rich Hollenberg and Dougie Wechter, because,
Two phenomenal baseball guys. Two phenomenal baseball guys. When Doug Wechter, Major League Baseball pitcher, I was interviewing him. My questions were like Chris Farley on Saturday Night Live with Paul McCartney. I said, like, you played for the Yankees? Wow. Cool. That was you got to wear the pinstripes? If you only played one day, you're in the show. You were in the show like Moonlight. What was that in?
Moonlight Graham.
Oh my God.
Moonlight Graham. Field
Yeah.
of Dreams.
Yeah. And those were my boyhood heroes. And Rich and he together, we honestly, when Doug did his audition tape with us, everybody has to do an audition tape. You've been down this road a gazillion times. So you just do like a little 20, 30-minute fake show. So management, executives who know what they're talking about can see if this person has the promise, the capacity of being able to do it. So you set up videos in the studio. You see how he looks, how comfortable he is. And so they asked me to come in early. We were doing down in South Florida. We could have been doing basketball or hockey that day. So I came in early and I had the honor and pleasure of doing Doug's audition, so to speak. And he's about 40 seconds into it. And I'm going, wow, okay, well, let's move on here. Because he was, he had cranked it in the upper deck. He was great, a natural. And he wants to do it. He's got a great soul, a great family. And look at Rich. He always comes prepared, tremendous talent, does many other sports. And you've got BA and you've got stats. We're living in a golden era of professional sport in Florida. And it's all started within the last 30 years.
Yeah, you got that right, partner. I want to talk.
There's my producer again.
That's fine, man. You're fine. This is a good thing. We got no time ramifications here.
Hold
coming on after us.
Time out for Mike Ruzioni. Hold on. I'll give you a little tip. Nobody knows this. Mike Ruzioni will make an appearance on video. I'm not going to tell you where or when. On Super Bowl Sunday.
Really?
That's all I'm saying. That's it. That's the end of it. No more clues, Your Honor. But remember when he called everybody up when they won the game, and he called everybody up to the podium. I mean, they won the gold medal because they beat the Russians. And then who do they have to play? The Finns?
Finland, yeah.
And what was Herb Brooks? They were trailing going into the third. And he said, you lose this game. And you will hate this. You'll remember this day or hate yourself forever.
Yeah.
For this game. And they came back and won the game. But I tease him. You made a career out of one goal. But you meet those guys today.
Yeah.
Jim Craig. And it's like, you're Jim Craig? Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
some incredible players.
Denny Morrow. Denny Potvin. I worked with the Panthers a little bit when we had the rights to him. And Kenny Morrow. Denny Potvin became like my godfather doing this. And the great Denny Potvin, captain of 4 Stanley Cup teams, took me under his wing. And this is a 93, 4, 5, 6, 7, right in there. And he took me around the league and everything. We did games together. But Kenny Morrow came right off of the gold medal game and went to the island and was paired with Denny Potvin. And Denny said it was seamless. He was one of those guys. Like, this is overstating it, but to say Connor Geeky of the doesn't look out of place.
Right.
And Kenny Morrow did not look out of place as a defenseman. And he got a gold medal and a Stanley Cup ring in the same summer. Right?
It's insane. I mean, I don't know if we're ever going to see anything quite like what Kenny Morrow's career was like. Because it's different now, right? Because if the guys are playing in the Olympics, right, they're all pro. Like if the pros are going, it's not the same when Sidney Crosby scores the golden goal and wins the gold medal, and obviously he's a Stanley Cup champion.
Yeah, it's different.
Kenny Morrow was part of a bunch of amateurs that won against quote unquote professionals, and then he went to the Islanders and was part of those cup winning teams. Like I don't know if we'll ever see anything like that again.
Yeah, it would be like Minnesota Duluth or the University of Michigan or Michigan State, I should say, for Adam Hall.
And Isaac Howard, Lightning draft pick.
And get this, Kenny Morrow,
Yeah, there we go.
Isaac Howard, and maybe you said this on your podcast, and I missed it. Isaac Howard, let me look around and see if Julian Breesbus. Isaac Howard could be here before the season's over. Right. What's to stop that? I mean, he's
Right.
leading the NCAA in scoring. He can play. This is his eligibility year to come out, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Michigan State captain. Adam Hall stepped right off the campus. Same scenario. Stepped right off the campus. He was the captain of Michigan State, 3 years. Stepped off the campus. Was drafted by the Predators. Goes to Nashville. They send him to Milwaukee. He plays 6 games in the AHL. They say, okay. He can play without a cage. He can play with a glass shield.
Right.
Okay. And so, the final weekend, we got a couple of games. We'll just have him hang out with us. So they play a game, and then they go out to Phoenix to play, and somebody gets hurt. And here he is, he's got his cup of coffee and his tie on after the morning skate. Barry Trotz comes in and says, Adam, you're in tonight. Squeeze me, baking powder. And that was it. He was in, and he played the same year he was the captain of Michigan State. He played in the National Hockey League. And as Marty St. Louis used to like to say, you're in the book. You play 1 game or 1,000 games, you're in the book. You have played in the NHL.
It's a beautiful thing. I would love to see it. Isaac Howard's 20 years old, so is Connor Geeky. So those are 2 guys. I think you put them in the middle of the lineup for this Tampa Bay Lightning team, and they could be a factor. Why not? This team needs a little bit of a jolt, I think, in the middle 6. Paul, it was so great to see the Bolts get back to kind of their winning ways last night. LA Kings 3-0 victory with a couple of goals for Hagel, 1 for Cirelli. I mean, what can you say about that tag team, Hagel and Cirelli? Whether it's on the penalty kill or 5-on-5, like, those guys really have grown, and they've warranted that selection of Team Canada.
I think so. I know so. And I've said this weekend, we honor a Hall of Fame class in Brian Bradley, the first All-Star, on that first team in 92-93, scored the first goal in Amalie. I've seen, and Rick Peckham, the other honoree, has seen just about every game the Lightning have played, right, over 30 years. Mm-hmm. And I think I can defend myself here, that this is one of the great tandems of their own merit. Mm-hmm. I'm not comparing them to anybody, in their own silo. We've never seen anything quite like this. In that, are they St. Louis and LeCavalier? No, they're different. Mm-hmm. Are they Brad Richards and LeCavalier? No, they're different. But we haven't seen the combination of goal scoring capacity. The next goal for Cirelli is his 20th. That will be, is that 6 20-goal scorers or something? Mm-hmm. But at all facets, even strength, shorthanded, who goes over the boards for a penalty kill? They are just as dangerous shorthanded. They can play power play, go down into the bump. But they work so well together that John Cooper, an attorney, and Julian Breesbaugh, an attorney by education, could make a case for Team Canada's executives that they should play together.
Right.
They are inseparable. When playing together, they are a force of nature. We have the second most shorthanded goals in the National Hockey League. And that's remarkable. They got one last night. I was just, and Brandon Hagel had an assist. He should have had as Dave Andrechuk, note the Andrechuk Foundation hat here. See
there
that?
You go. Yeah, buddy.
With all the teams that he played for. Can you make that out?
Yeah, pull it back a little bit. Oh, nice. Whoa, I never saw that. That's amazing. Oh,
I got a hat deal for you. Oh, see that one? The old
oh, that's great.
I got a hat deal for you. I had the same hat deal. He said, Paul, I'll make you a deal. $20, you get a hat. So, but as Dave Andrechuk, he should have had on his second goal when Kucherov had the partial breakaway and goes storming in, and Riddick trips him, and the rebound comes off of Riddick. And then Hagel, following the play, scores on the rebound. He should have had an assist to himself because in the defensive end, he headmans the puck to Kucherov.
Right.
Kucherov then comes flying up the ice, and Hagel follows the play at full speed. Rebound, Hagel, touchdown. So, in fact, two guys touched the puck before the goal scorer, him and Cooch. He had an assist to himself.
I love that.
Yeah, I just find him, I don't know if it's his confidence growing, but he clearly belongs. He's clearly, if there was an all-star game this year, it'd be interesting to see who would represent the Tampa Bay Lightning. We have an incredible group of men in this golden age still of Lightning hockey.
Yeah, you got that right, buddy. Brandon Hagel is a guy, and I remember that first press conference. You were probably there when he first got traded from Chicago, and he looked like he was white as a ghost. He was just like, I didn't know I was getting traded. And you just forget about being a hockey player. You were empathetic to him as a human being. 3 years ago, I want to say. But I was empathetic to him as a human being, not a hockey player. We think these guys are unflappable. Hey, they're professional athletes. They'll figure it out. This is still a young man. This is still a guy figuring out who he is as a human being. Forget about it as a hockey player. He gets traded. He gets traded from a team where he was finding some success. He was good. He's playing with Patrick Kane. Then he goes to Tampa. He's like, oh my gosh, because you get drafted by a team, you get developed by a team, you grow with a team. Sometimes I don't think these guys realize the business end of it, and they realize that you kind of have to be ready for the unthinkable because it is a business. And it's easy for guys like we saw last year, Anthony Duclair has played on seeming like 15 teams. He understands it's a business, but for these young guys, that first kind of transition, that first change is a lot easier said than done to be able to deal with. But he's incredible. Him and Anthony Cirelli, I love that combination of those two guys. And you bring up a great point. If there was an all-star game this year, who would be the guy or guys representing the Tampa Bay Lightning? I wanted to ask you this on the podcast because you asked me this question yesterday as we were walking into Amalie Arena together. Who is the greatest player in Tampa Bay Lightning history? And I know a lot of people out there will say Steven Stamkos. You'll have Nikita Kucherov as an option. Some people will say, Andrei Vasilevsky. You'll go back to the 04 teams, and maybe you'll say a guy like Martin St. Louis or Vinny Lecavalier. But you brought up to me yesterday Victor Hedman as that guy who's been a top 5 defenseman for the better part of a decade, a Norris Trophy winner, the captain now of Team Sweden. I mean, number 77 certainly is in the conversation.
Conn Smythe Award winner, too. Perennial All-Star consideration. And this is no slight to 91 and Steven Stamkos. I thought he saved the franchise to a degree. He was our hope when the years got lean, and he came into the league, as you said, at 18, but I never thought he was wide-eyed at the age of 18. He had a presence about him, and he was mentored by Martin St. Louis, mentored by Vinny Lecavalier. You're right. The inclination is to say Stammer, because look at all the records he set, how many ceremonies we had on ice for him, how he carried himself. Everything about him was perfection. And the injuries that he dealt with, no man in the history of this franchise has dealt with as severe injuries as he has. And remember the puck to the face in 2011, Game 7 at Boston, Eastern Conference Final, and we lose that game. He may have missed a half dozen shifts, came back out, patched up with a metal cage on him, and it was a 1-goal game, and Boston won the Eastern Conference, went to the Stanley Cup Final, and won over Vancouver. I always thought that was Steven and the Lightning's Stanley Cup. It should have been with Guy Boucher. Should have been. And but that started this run, and Guy was within a year or so succeeded by John Cooper. But I've always thought that he was. But as we get deeper into this, what gave me cause for pause was him being named captain of the Three Crowns for the Four Nations face-off. And someone pointed out it's the 10th time from his junior days till now that on an international level, he has been a captain for his nation. And I went, or the team he played on. Let me prove it. So, and you go, wait a second, does he have the most games played in Lightning history, or does that still belong to Steven?
I think it's still Stammer.
Okay. Most assists. Right behind him is 86.
I think Cooch just caught him.
Right. Cooch had
Yeah.
but you see what I'm saying?
I know what you mean, yeah.
He's playing on the back end, and it's been a phenomenal run. And perhaps, I don't want to say overshadowed, but in a secondary consideration every time you talked about the greats. But I can only imagine what it's like inside the locker room when he stands up. Everybody shuts up that wears a Tampa Bay Lightning sweater. I just think and I've never met, this will sound very prejudicial. In my 30 years, I've never met a Swede, a gentleman, someone from Sweden that wasn't a gentleman. Name all the Swedes. Just start through. Mikael Anderson, first year, still with the franchise as an international scout. More recently, Matthias Olin.
Anton Strawman.
Anton Strawman. What a nice man.
Beautiful man.
And could play the big smooth. Remember, was never rushed on his passes, never rushed as a defenseman. Victor, all the goaltenders that we have had that have come through. I've always found them to be gentlemen. And is that the culture of the nation? But yeah, it's and who comes over, I like it a lot. There'll be a tough out, Sweden will, but then again, so will the States. So will Finland, I bet. So will Team Canada. They'll all be tough out in this Four Nations face-off. I just saw Drew Doughty, Dave Randorf, and Brian England were discussing in the course of the telecast with LA last night, with Alex Pietrangelo electing not to play for Canada. Here's Drew Doughty back, skating, 16 years, second pick after Stamkos in that draft of 2008, in which the next four picks after Stammer were defensemen, including Luke Schenn and what have you, the great defensive draft. He might be a candidate to join. I'm not going to say he is, but he might be a candidate to join. So you'd get a 17-year defenseman who's had two Olympic gold medals and 2 Stanley Cups out in Los Angeles, and played every minute of every game in that sweater. That's what Victor has done now in his 16th year. Every achievement, every assist, every moment in his plus minus. It hasn't been with 2 or 3 teams. Everything has been wearing a Lightning sweater, and that means a lot to a homeboy like me.
Yeah, you're right. And you think about it with Victor Hedman, he's in that conversation, right? As one of the best players in Tampa Bay Lightning franchise history. But he's not in the conversation when it comes to best defenseman in Lightning history. He is the conversation, Paul Kennedy. There's no debate. He's one, and there's a large gap between him and number 2.
I've seen Pavel Kabina with the map before. I've seen, in 2004.
Right.
Pavel Kabina had it all going on. I remember that specifically. I'm trying to see who else tops out. Rob Ramage was here only for that first year. Roman Hamrlik, who ended up having a 20-year career. Roman Hamrlik, you know where he's living now? Costa Rica.
Oh, nice. He's going to be here this weekend, no?
Yeah, I think so.
I think he's going to be here this weekend. Let's not forget about some of the other defensemen. Obviously Ryan McDonough, incredible career with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Dan Boyle. Dan Boyle, also another guy. I'm actually writing a story on Ryan McDonough, Paul, for the Tampa Bay Lightning website. as the guest writer for the month of February. So I've actually
Are you
compiled.
really?
Yes. So Eric Erlinson did one on the candidacy of John Cooper for the Jack Adams Award for January up on TampaBayLightning.com. For February, I'm doing a story on how the Lightning made it right by bringing back Ryan McDonough. And I reached out to our good pal Brian Engblom and Phil Esposito, and I talked to Pat Maroon after the game the other night. I've talked to Tommy Mulligan, the head athletic trainer, as well as Victor Hedman and Eric Chernak. So yeah, I'm excited.
Is there one common in 15 seconds? Was there one common denominator in all of their responses? I thought nobody bats 1,000 in any endeavor, and I thought the organization believed on 2 points. One, financially, we need to create some room, but two, perhaps we could get by comparatively speaking. And we realized 5-on-5 or shorthanded, we could not.
Yeah,
that we took a hit, and we need to go rectify this. And for future considerations, call Barry Trotz and say, Barry, we need to talk. I need here, and we're going to be pals a long time. We're going to have a working relationship. I need him back. Or do you think some of that played into it? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think it did. And as much as you can look at, I think you can look at the defensive numbers, right? What their numbers are 5-on-5, what the penalty kill numbers are. But I think the true value of Ryan McDonough is it's immeasurable. I think it's an intangible, Paul, because what you got from these guys were a consistent message across the board about stability, about him being a machine, about him being a warrior. And I really wanted to ask each person about Ryan McDonough, the man. And I think that has a lot to do, like his upbringing. His dad's a firefighter, right? You look at, he's a father. He's got 3 kids, his wife, and just everybody said he's a great dad. He's a great husband. You know, he's just an incredible human being. And I think it was Pat Maroon that looked at me and he goes, Jay, Ryan McDonough is like who we all strive to be. Like, he's like the perfect dude. Like, he says he doesn't have to say a ton, but he when he does speak, everybody listens, and he's just a great human being. And I'm a firm believer that, you know, the best, if you're a great human being, you could do anything. Obviously, you need athletic ability, you need talent, but if you're a guy that has the work ethic and you're just a down-to-earth, salt-of-the-earth type of guy like Ryan McDonough, you're not just going to improve your own life, but everybody around you. And I think that's another reason why, even though defensively, yeah, they're better, but the team walks a little bit taller and their heads are on a little bit straighter when they have a guy like Ryan McDonough in that locker room.
Gabby Shirley, my colleague, I don't think I'm that old, but she calls me Mr. Kennedy. She was interviewed. She does a spectacular job, and she was interviewing him. I believe it was the last game. We were talking about absence. I don't know if it was after Chicago losing 5-1, but it could have been at his locker. You know, players that will interview stand up at their locker after a win.
Right.
Oh, that's a veteran player that will stand up at his locker and be an example to younger players and answer the tough questions with politeness. Ryan McDonough, he said, what we need to do here is stay together. We're not going to break apart and go in different directions. Now, he didn't use the word panic, but he said press in different directions and create something that's inefficient. I'm paraphrasing this. We will all stay together and we will get out of this. The absence of goal scoring, 1 goal in 2 games. And he was right, you know, and he said, we nearly had a 3-on-2 kill. I mean, a 5-on-3 kill.
Yeah.
Remember that? And then at the end of it,
Connor Bedard. Yeah. With 3 seconds left. That was a killer. Oh,
Connor Bedard. You said Connor Bedard.
What a
last
player.
year, 2-2. Okay, well, you knew he was coming. Okay, we'll show you. Okay, it's 2-2, and the assists were to Tyler Johnson and Corey Perry.
Right.
With 2 assists. Okay, Julian. and then last 2 nights ago, or this week, or whenever we played, because all the games are starting to run together in January. He gets another goal. It's just, Do you know that we played, and I said this to Dorf and Brian as I pitched it to him the other night. Well, we faced LA for the second time. It seems like just a couple of weeks ago, but since we last faced them out in Los Angeles, we have played 14 more games.
Jeez.
We played them at the outset of January. We were playing them at the end of January. And in between, we had squeezed. This would be the 16th game in 28 nights.
Oh, my gosh.
This is like, and I turned to Dave Andrechuk, 23 years in the National Hockey League. He and I combined for 640 goals. I want you to know that. Across our combined 23 seasons. I turned to him and I said, I don't remember anything like this. And he said, I don't know that I do either. But from a different perspective.
Right.
Just a lot. And I think it's, what would you say it is for the Four Nations face-off, that you've had an accordion, you've had to compress games into January and then into March on the backside. Or I don't remember December being quite like this, but you had Christmas.
Yeah, you have that couple days break around the holidays. So
16 games, but you couldn't practice.
Yeah, I know. You couldn't rectify, and you also couldn't sleep. It was like 2 days, I think, up until this past week where they had a full, complete day in Tampa, where they woke up in Tampa and fell asleep in Tampa, and they didn't have anything else going on. Right. It's wild. Paul, before I let you go, I want to ask you real quick.
Braden Coburn brought this up. He said, all the players, we did post game on, what was the last game of the trip? Detroit?
Mm-hmm.
Detroit, was it Detroit? I think it was Detroit, right?
Yes, Chicago, then Detroit.
Chicago, then Detroit. Or we had a practice day after Chicago. Well, one of them, and Braden Coburn, wonderful defenseman, 55 blue, on the Stanley Cup, played 16 years in the league. He knows what he's talking about and has a passion for this. He said, they're all talking about practice.
Yep.
You know, Braden Point and McDonough. And Hedman, they're talking about how tomorrow we get a day of practice rather than rest. He says, I feel like it's Allen Iverson. This is exactly, I feel like it's Allen Iverson. We're not talking about a game. We're talking about practice. And that's what he said, made me laugh.
So it's a beautiful thing. Paul, I got about 5 minutes left with you. Before I let you go, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the Hall of Famers this weekend, Brian Bradley and Bobby the Chief Taylor, two guys that you know really well.
Yeah, Brian Bradley, our first All-Star. Google Brian Bradley in 1992. He had in 92-93 had a 42-goal season. 42-goal season playing in that prefabricated building of Expo Hall. He was our first All-Star. And he goes to Montreal, the historic forum, representing us. And he skates on an All-Star line with his centerman was Wayne Gretzky. And on the other wing was Brett Hall. And there are great pictures of those three together. The proudest moment. He was here 7 years. And then on the first night of what is now Amalie Arena, Terry Crisp, in his wisdom, the great coach, we had gone from the prefabricated hut to the Thunderdome, which is Tropicana Field, to now having the building we now call Amalie. We had the New York Rangers in town. He started 5 guys that were, or 5 skaters that were still here that had played in Expo Hall. Wow. And Brian Bradley, fittingly, the heavens, scored the very first goal in what is now Amalie Arena. And he never left. He's been an ambassador for this team for 30 years. And then Rick Peckham, for 22 years of his 40-year Foster Hewitt Award-winning career, was the voice of the Lightning. He has chronicled through his excellence. He started with Hartford, Jerry Cheevers, who's in the Hall of Fame, Rick, who earns the Foster Hewitt, enshrined in the Hall of Fame 2 years ago. He has chronicled the careers of, just consider this, he has called almost every game played by Vinny LeCavalier, Marty St. Louis, Dave Andrechuk as a member of the Bolts, Brad Richards certainly as a member of the Bolts. Think about this. Victor Hedman, he called nearly every game of Steven Stamkos. The list goes on and on and on. And he's done it with, we were running the highlights last night. Extraordinary talent. otherworldly talent, and he's a gentleman. And he will fittingly receive his jacket and join Marty and Vinny and Dave and Phil and Brad on the wall of the Tom McEwen press box as members of the Lightning Hall of Fame. One of the great honors of my career is to have served on the selection committee and then to nominate figures and then see the fans vote him, the players vote him, the media vote Rick, and the media vote Brian. Brian represents an entire generation of players that many never saw play. John Tucker, Darren Pupa. I know I'm taking up all your time. The producers.
No, you're fine.
You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, he represents an entire generation. So it's going to be spectacular. 4:30, they walk the blue carpet or such, and then we have the Blue Jacket ceremony, and then with the Islanders in town, they will come out and drop the ceremonial puck. And Brian will be at the face-off circle once again.
That's a beautiful thing. And then their names will get revealed right outside the press box there. And I cannot wait to be in attendance for that. The one and only you want to talk about, gentleman. He's a gentleman. He's a scholar. One of the best guys I know, the great Paul Kennedy. Paul, man, I appreciate your time so much.
Pablo the Magnificent.
Pablo the Magnificent. That needs to be your lower third, the next broadcast over on the Fanduel Sports Network, my friend. And shout out to Mike.
It's a miracle that I'm here. It's a miracle I'm here.
I love you. I love you too, pal. Thank you so much for your time. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Yeah, buddy. Thumbs up.
All right, pal. Good stuff as always. The one and only Paul Kennedy. I could have talked to him all day. I mean, it's just amazing, the wealth of knowledge. It's just a great person. And I say this all the time. It's not the games. It's not the athletes. It's not the events. It's the people that I work with. And when I talk about the people that I work with, Paul Kennedy is one of those guys, man. He is an amazing human being. Like, if you say something bad about Paul Kennedy, you're a dick. Like, you're not a good person. Like, he is the best. He's the best. I wish people out there treated other people the way that Paul Kennedy treats people. He has never a negative thing to say about anybody. He's always trying to make your day better. He's always inquiring about your loved ones and what's going on with you. I joke around with Paul a lot. He loves the shoes. He's a big fan of my shoe game. But one thing that I'll always remember about Paul Kennedy was that PK told me, he goes, Jay, I think you would really enjoy this show on Netflix. And I'm like, okay, what is it? He goes, it's F1 Need for Speed Drive to Survive or whatever it was called. And I was like, Paul, like, I'm not a big car guy. That's like, it's just not my thing. And he goes, Jay, trust me, give it an episode and I promise that you'll like it. I go, okay. Well, freaking 4 seasons later, like 2 days later, I'm standing in front of the TV and I'm hearing my girlfriend yelling, why are there so loud? Why is there such an amount of loud noises and loud car noises? Like, well, I've never known you to be a guy to watch car shows. It's still one of my favorite shows. I've watched it twice. It is amazing. It is such a good watch. And even if you're not into cars, like, it is so, it's a peek behind the scenes in one of the just most incredible sports there is. And you're traveling around the country. The way that it's shot is great. The way that it's written is fantastic. The personalities that are involved with F1, give it a look. I'm not going to lie. I'm not sitting here saying like I watch and I tune into F1 every single time it's on, but I definitely keep an eye on it a lot closer than I initially did. But if you're looking for a show to watch, like, that is a really, really good one to watch because there's just so much drama involved in it. All of the race car drivers have such fantastic personalities, and the guys that are in charge, the managers of each one of these teams, the setup, 20 drivers, each team, there's 10 teams, each team has 2 drivers. The dynamic between the guy that's kind of like your number 1 versus the number 2, that's an incredible drama as it is. Also, these teams that know that they're not going to win, and for them not to be in last is like a huge accomplishment. They go into the season going, we want to finish 4th. Like, it's so freaking unique. It's unlike anything else that I've ever experienced covering and watching sports in damn near 4 decades on this planet. So go check that out if you can. If you're looking for something like that, it is so worth it. And I always like to watch shows that I didn't think that I would like, but when it's a strongly recommended from somebody like Paul Kennedy, you're going to give it a chance, and it was worth it every single time. So, I mean, you look at a guy like Lewis Hamilton's one of the most famous car drivers, race car drivers ever. He didn't even want to be part of it in season 1 because he was like, I don't know, it's kind of invasive. And then he realized, like, oh wow, everybody else is involved except me. Season 2, he was the first person. He was the first person interviewed. And now he was with Mercedes for such a long time. Now he's with Ferrari. I can't wait for the next season. It's going to be incredible. So go check that out. Thank me later because it is a ton of fun. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube. You know what we do here on the J Recher podcast. We are definitely going to show as much love as we can to all of the different teams in the Tampa Bay area. And you can see with my background here, you see the picture of our friend, the late great Amir Abdur-Rahim, Manchester United and Tampa Bay Sun, the Bucs, the Rowdies, Lightning, UT, and USF. I love everybody, and I am so excited for our next guest. The one and only Coach Mindy McCord joins us on the program ahead of the first ever game for USF Women's Lacrosse next Friday. Coach, thanks so much for joining me. How are you today?
Great. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. I'm so happy and so grateful for your time. I remember when the announcement was made, and I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And it was almost when the announcement was initially made, you're like, wait a second, it's not even next year. Like, it's a couple years down the road. I mean, how surreal is it to know that it's less, it's a week away. It's finally going to be here next Friday, Corbett Stadium against Kennesaw State. Are you in touch with that yet, that it's like right around the corner?
I think surreal is the perfect word. When you're like, wow, I'm going on year 3 and we haven't played a game yet. It's like, wow, there's so much time. And now all of a sudden I see the ticker on the boards count down each day and I'm like, oh, we need more time. But I think it's just because we're so excited, and everyone's just anticipating this opportunity to create a historic moment in USF history. The 28 years and adding a women's sport, and we get to hit that moment in history for this university, for this athletics program, and for our alumni down the road to be able to come back and say we started this program from scratch, and we're creating a legacy here for a long time to come.
Coach, what was the biggest draw here to Tampa and USF?
I would say the opportunity to build another program, seeing Title IX in action. I love building people and I love building programs, the leadership. And I didn't want to ever leave like the beaches and the warm weather either. So, in my 50s, that's kind of important. You want to find a place that you want to live for a long time.
Right.
And, but the leadership was very, transformational leadership. They really had a commitment not to just adding a sport for Title IX purposes, but to see these sports become competitive at the NCAA level. And I think all coaches desire, athletic directors and administrators that are coach driven and coach led, and they want to be supported for the student athlete experience. So I loved that. And I personally felt that we had a real niche here in athletics with our Enhancing You and Leroy Selman Mentoring Institute, which, I think if you're a transformational leader, you care about growing people outside of just the on-field part. And our Enhancing You group just does a great job building people, and I wanted to be a part of that.
Yeah, I'd love for you to elaborate on that a little bit more. One thing that I've been so impressed with, and Michael Kelly does such a fantastic job and his entire team over there, but there's such a tight-knit bond with the coaches at USF. Like, you just look up and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, like there's Coach Alex Golich just at a basketball game. It's like, oh wait, Coach Jose Fernandez is at a baseball game. Like, it's pretty like, it's not just quote unquote coach speak. Like, there really is, like, everybody at USF is pulling in the same direction with the same rope. Have you felt that, like, with the relationships with your fellow coaches there?
Yes. Our motto is Team USF. and it's super supportive. Everybody wants each other to be successful. We want to know the athletes. We want to have relationships with the coaches. It's a very relationship driven organization here, and the more time you spend at doing a job, well, if you have a job that doesn't feel like a job because you have the right relationships, well, that's what USF Athletics is here, and I'm proud to be a member of it.
So there's this guy on your coaching staff, and his name, I don't know if he's new or if you know him really well. His name's Paul, I think it's pronounced.
No idea.
So we had Paul on when I was working at iHeart, and Paul came on, and he was you had like a late cancellation you had to run, and Paul joined the show, and he was like, "Oh, Mindy was so sorry." I'm like, "No, it's fine. And we had such a good time on the air. And when he got off the air, we were like, that was awesome. We were so excited. And that was like a year and a half ago. We were like, oh my God, we can't wait for this game. But what is it like to be able to because it's not for everybody, right? It's not for everybody to be able to work, side by side with their spouse. I mean, what is that like? What is it? How is it strengthen your relationship? What are some of the challenges? Like, because it's a daily thing. There's no, hey, give me a kiss, we're going off to work in our separate ways. Like, you guys spend a lot of time together.
Well, I'd say that it's been 20 years in marriage, 23 years in the making. So I think we learned, we coached together before we were married, and I think that was important. We share such, similar values, and we also love mentorship, and we love building organizations. And I think what we learned early in our days, it was that we couldn't coach on opposite teams. We tried that. Someone ended up on the sofa, so that's no good.
Right.
We also learned that we had key words. Like, so if we said, okay, coach, that means stop coaching me and be a wife or a husband. And I think that when you are doing things that you love together, it's really special. And I've learned so much from Paul. Like, I think in women's sports, I didn't grow up with the opportunity to play multiple sports as much as the men, got opportunities. I mean, back in the day, Title IX was still evolving. And so I've really learned from a lot of men's sports. When I started coaching, video analysis wasn't like that for women's sports, but football coaches, they had owned it. They knew they used video. They had a lot with technology. So I've tried to learn as much as I can from Paul, who had college and NFL experience. And I would try to learn from those other coaches that just have more experience than me. And so I would say that when you can, as a coach, find other people with strengths that you don't have, and you can provide ownership to those coaches, then I think it can become a win-win. And he's super respectful of wanting to he pivoted from the NFL to support women in sports. His wife, who was a coach, his daughter, who was an athlete. I don't find a lot of football coaches that do that, that take the priority off of their career to build women and women athletics. And that's been his heart. He's been always great. I'm sure he misses football to death, but once he became a cross coach, I'm like, you're too good at this. You can't do it. Anything else? We learned so much from each other.
Yeah, it's a great story, and you could tell. I mean, you want to talk about a labor of love. I mean, that's really it's so commendable, and you could tell like he's not just doing it because he loves you. He loves it too. I mean, you could tell, you can watch, like you can hear it in his voice too, and he's grown into this game, which is a beautiful thing to see. What is a common thread that a Mindy McCord lacrosse player has for USF?
Well, that would probably be a question for my players, but I'd say our 6 pillars are family, love, trust, lead, serve, and faith. And so I think when you look at the value of those pillars and actions, I hope at the end of the day, the common thread is relationships, authentic, real relationships, whether you win or lose. It's how you do it together. And that it's a process. I think it's so easy for people who haven't coached or been athletes to say win, win, win. And yeah, we know that our jobs are on the line when we're not winning games. Like, this is college athletics. But if we focus on the outcome versus the process and our people, then we're gonna deliver a product that that lasts a lifetime. And that product are our alumni, our relationships with each other far after their eligibility ends. And so that's what I would hope the common thread is, that we all get to do something we love very, very much. We all get to grow together through the good and the bad. And we all get to have lifelong relationships that bring value far after the wins and losses on the field.
It's a beautiful explanation. Give me some of the players that we need to. So if we're going out there, and I'll be there next Friday, if you're going out there next Friday, who are some of the players on the attack? Who are like, just give us some of the names that we're going to grow and fall in love with on this USF Lacrosse team.
Well, I think on the attack end, you're going to really grow to know Sophia Chepnik. And she is kind of a power forward player. She's tall. She got a real strong shot, real dodging threat. She was a transfer from Clemson who had some experience playing at that level, and she really brings a great brand to lacrosse. You're gonna find Juliana George. She is a low attacker because we can play behind the net, unlike ball.
Yeah.
She really can work the field behind the net. I call her the ankle breaker because
Ooh.
she ties defenders up into the cage a lot with her moves. Very, very quick. When you see our midfielders, you're going to see a lot of speed. I think we're developing some great depth in the midfield, but Caitlin Tagtarloni, Bailey Morris, Callie Cleary, Jenna Binkus. Those are going to kind of be some midfielders that you might find in that speed route, creating fast breaks, working strong, aggressive riding. And our riding is kind of like a full court press in basketball.
Nice.
So I think you'll see a lot of aggressive defense. On the defensive end, we have Paige Pagano, and she's a fifth-year transfer, has a lot of NCAA experience in the cage. We have a great group of defenders. Ansley Knorr was one of the conference preseason all-conference players. She's a very fierce defender, very physical, from Atlanta. I think you'll see a really good brand of defense from her. And we're a true team. I always tell them that your teammates make you look good, and that's how you're productive. And when you play together, one person puts the ball in the net, but six others were the cohesive unit that led to that. And that, I think that's what you're going to see. You're going to find, statistically speaking, that it's not just 3 or 4, that there's a group of people that are, and that's what will eventually make us unscoutable.
I love that. Yeah, the balance, right? And then you kind of disperse the scoring through everybody, so people aren't just keying in on that one attacker that you have. What is the goal for the team this year? I mean, do you talk about winning conference? Do you talk like where? Because it is like you're embarking on something that's completely new for everybody here in the Tampa Bay area. You're going to have people out there at Corbett Stadium next Friday that have never watched a lacrosse game in person before. It's exciting. But your message to the team as far as your goals, is it just, hey, look, take it one day at a time? Do you have lofty aspirations? What are those messages?
You have to take it one game at a time. If you're looking in the rearview mirror, it's a mistake. If you're looking too far ahead, it's a mistake. You have to be present, take one game at a time, and learn and grow. We break our season up into quarters so that we can focus on what our objectives are in each quarter as we build a program. And I think that helps to compartmentalize the season so it's not so big. And obviously at the end, when you get to fourth quarter, which is your conference tournament, you want to be one of the top 4 teams that have an opportunity to compete in the postseason. And if you focus on that now, then you're not going to build the team the way you need to be ready for that time. So I think we have a good process in place, and we just have to work our process, and we have to love our people, and we have to do it together, because that's our theme.
Coach, before I let you go, give for those people that are they're hopping on a new sport for the first time. What are some kind of like, I don't want to say like you have the old like yellow books, like Lacrosse for Dummies kind of thing. Like just what some of the give just a couple of things for people that are going to go for the first time. Cause that's my thing here on the J-Red. And you can see it with my background. Like I talk about legitimately every sport when we're going to the depths of WWE and UFC and like soccer, lacrosse, football, baseball, basketball, hockey. It don't matter. If it's something on in the Tampa Bay area or in the country or in the world, we're talking about it here. But I always look at not just entertainment, but also education and information as well. And I think that's one of the keys is not just having people that have a lacrosse background, but people that are, hey, my interest is piqued. Next Friday night, I want to go to this game, but I may not know, just I think the ground level of the rules. So what are just some of the just kind of like the basic things that you could tell to somebody that like, hey, this is going to help you follow along with the game a little bit easier next Friday?
Well, first off, why they do want to come and be interested is because it cross relates so many sports.
Right.
From your soccer to your basketball to your hockey, so the other thing is it's such a very high scoring sport relative. You have a shot clock. So that makes it very fun. And I think when you think about rules, our rules can sometimes impede understanding the game. So what I would say for our fans coming to a game is that when the 8-meter arc, we have an 8-meter and a 12-meter arc. When that's cleared, that's a major foul has occurred and you get a free shot on goal. A lot of people don't understand what are they doing? Why are they taking everybody out of here? That's like a major foul. It's like a free throw, right? You get cleared out and you get a free shot on goal. Another important stat to know, because this can be confusing, is that between the restraining lines, so if you have a 120-yard field by 65 wide, there's two lines, we call them restraining lines. And in between those restraining lines, if you foul, you get a green card. So you go man down.
Ooh.
And so it's kind of a power play.
Yeah, power play like we see with the Lightning in hockey. Okay.
So, but you're going to be like, why did she get a foul there and it get carded? And then on the other side of the field, it looks even more physical and there's no card.
Okay.
So you don't understand always the cards, but just, when you see that official going like this, you can bet that somebody's getting a card and now it's a man up, man down situation for a certain period of time. And I think that helps people just to understand the flow of the game. But we have a shot clock and you have to get a shot off within that amount of time. Now, here's one that people don't realize. If I shoot the ball on attack and my attacker is closest to the end line, I keep that possession. So in a lot of sports, that possession's a turnover. So that's pretty fun because you can have a poor shot and still retain possession.
I love that. That's almost like when you're a little kid and it goes out of play and whoever races to the fence to get the basketball quicker, that's who gets the ball. I love that.
One more.
Yeah, go ahead.
On defense, we have 3 seconds. So you know how in basketball it's on offense? It's on defense. So I have to be within a stick length marking you to not be in 3 seconds. So this is a real attacking sport. Can you imagine not being able to zone for the defender? Like you have to be very athletic because if you're in 3 seconds and you're not within a stick length of your attacker, it's a foul and you get a free shot on goal.
Oh my gosh. So you can't sit back and just pack it. And, in soccer, they say park the bus. You're not just going to be able to pack the zone there. You got to go try to go get that ball. You can't just sit there and play defense.
Yes.
Wow. That's incredible. So for everybody out there that has never watched lacrosse or been to a game or anything, we're trying to help you out here on the Recher podcast. She is Coach Mindy McCord. Go get your tickets now. Go usfbulls.com. Just bookmark it on wherever. Make sure you put it on your phone, on your everything. USF. Go usfbulls.com. You can get your tickets there. We are so excited. We are a week away. I know next week is going to be preparation to the gills. Coach Mindy McCord, tell Paul we said hello. Best of luck to you and the team, and we'll see you at Corbett Stadium next Friday. Thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome. Thank you. And go Bulls.
You got it. Go Bulls. That is right. Every single time we talk to one of our USF Coaches, it's always go Bulls. And man, I'm excited. I'm jacked up. I cannot wait. Again, I remember the announcement initially, and I was like, man, 2025? That's going to be a ways away. And now it is here. All right, it's going to wrap it up for me. I got to actually go finish writing my Ryan McDonough story. We got the sneaker soiree tonight at the Hard Rock. So if you thought my sneakers were crazy last night, the ones tonight are even wilder. A big thank you to everybody that joined us on the program today, including Coach Mindy McCord, the one and only Paul Kennedy, and then David Schiele, Corey Long, and Matt Matera for our Royal Rumble Roundtable. Can't wait for that tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Next week, a lot of great things going on. Monday through Thursday next week. Am I doing the whole? Yeah, I'm doing the whole week next week. But yeah, I know I'll be at Amalie Arena on Tuesday, not Thursday, because Thursday night I will be at USF. We heard it yesterday with Rich Hollenberg, he and Tom Crean on the call. It is going to be a whiteout night in support and in remembrance of the one and only Amir Abdur-Rahim. So please pack out the Yingling Center next Thursday night. It is going to be a very emotional night there at USF. Follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Guys, I can't thank you enough for a great month. 1 month down for the Recher podcast. Can't wait to see what we got going forward, but I couldn't do it without you. Everybody have a safe and a happy and a healthy weekend, and we'll see you Monday at noon right here on the Recher podcast. I am gone.